Hello, everybody. Long time no see. Scientology up north. Hello, good to see you here. Nico. Good morning, Serge. Jamie and Mona. Uh-oh. The cat's out of the bag. Hello, Amanda. Thank you so much. Hello, Pearl Snappy. Hello, everyone. Let's start with a little, just a little thing that I wrote this morning that I'm calling 46 Steps. 46 Steps Around the Sun. A journey of battles yet never undone. From the shadows of a cult's cruel reign to a life reclaimed through joy and pain. Eyes that once blurred, now crystal clear. Seeing the truth they tried to smear. A gift from God, this sight to see. The betrayal unmasked, the chains set free. With gratitude, we turn the page, fueled by love, not bound by rage. With all our strength, a guiding light, together we've made darkness into something bright. To a community steady, fast, and true, you've seen, you've heard, and journeyed through. With voices loud demanding change for every child trapped and estranged. No more contracts, no more binds, no more lost, exploited minds. We march forward, hearts ablaze for futures untouched by such dark days. So here we stand at this stepping stone, not just surviving, but fully grown. 46 years, a life rebuilt from a web of lies and inherited guilt. To those who walk this path with me, we toast to love and liberty. For a birthday marks not just our years, but the strength it takes to face our fears. And we're going to bring to the stage our two wonderful co-hosts for this live today, No More Kids in Scientology. All I Want for My Birthday, Fat Granny and Jamie Mustard. Hello, guys.
Hey.
Hi, you guys.
Jamie, great to finally meet you, Serge.
Right. Likewise, finally.
Yeah, I feel like, it's been a meeting, we've been on a collision course eventually to meet.
A collision course. I like that.
Yeah.
This is the result of this collision course.
Well, I get to steer the bus of the collision course. So
yes.
If you get happy birthday, Serge. Happy birthday, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, man. That's okay, yeah. All right. You got to be like 33 today.
Just
right.
All right.
That was a great poem. I really enjoyed that poem.
Did you did you write that?
Yeah, I wrote that this morning. I usually organize my thoughts through writing. So I'm an avid writer. I'm always writing.
I thought it really encapsulated the experience. I really did. It's such a unique experience. It's really hard to have people. One of the reasons I think that people don't end up I just feel like the story of the kids, has really been whitewashed. I think there's a couple reasons for that. But I think part of the reason is it's so strange and so exotic. It's hard for people to imagine,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard for people to imagine people running around in naval uniforms in the 1970s and 80s to now, neglecting and abusing children. It's in downtown Los Angeles or Sydney or downtown Copenhagen, or there's just no reference point.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. So we didn't get to talk a little bit beforehand, because I know it kind of screwed up the timing. I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to bring you both on to officially introduce the two of you, like you just said. It's been a collision course needing to happen. You guys are both very powerful, strong men. And to be in the same room, even though it's metaphorically and we're not in the same room, is an honor. And I'm just really, this is a great happening that just needed to happen. So I'm really honored, and thank you guys for doing that. It really came about because having kind of profound and deep conversations with the both of you at different times, and that you both have the same words, the same verbiage, the same ideas about kids, the same passions, the same passion about art and writing. And I thought, wow, you guys are just really needing to meet up, and I would love to be honored to be that person to bring you guys together. So if you don't mind me just driving the bus just a little bit to get through some questions, because I have a place where I want us to go with this. Okay, do you mind?
I'm in your hands.
Okay. So a big theme for all of us, a big war cry, has been no more kids in Scientology, and that's what we're so passionate about. And I'd like to investigate the why to get to the what and how a little bit more. So I have a few questions. And the first one is to get to know the both of you just a little bit. What is your biggest accomplishment in life so far? It could be personal, professional, it could be anything.
You want to go first, or should yeah?
Yeah, go.
Okay. Well, first, let me say before I answer that, just Serge, I watch you, and it's been interesting because up until a year and a half ago ish, when I just started that I had spoken out in 2009 and privately gone to all my people, and I'm sure I got a golden rod or whatever. But I've been dealing with deep shame for most of my life and wanted to forget that this ever happened to me. I didn't really want to know ex-kids, and I didn't really want to have anything to do with it because of just the shame and the pain and the triggering I would get if I started talking about it or approaching it. Right. When I first started watching you, some of the things you said bothered me. Like, you would say like, and then I learned from you, like over time, I was like, yeah, maybe he has a point. Like, I'll give you an example, and I'm going to answer your question. I'll just say this. Like, when you would talk about it being like a big cosplay, right? I'm like, what's he talking about? And then I would start to think about it, and I go, you know what? It kind of was like a big cosplay, especially in Clearwater, like all these people running around in naval uniforms in like a hotel, like dressing up in this kind of fantasy. It fed it. Right. Yeah. But to me, I'm going to say this, and I don't want to say this is going to sound crazy because the story of what happened to us kids in the 70s before the complex, before the big blue building, what happened at the Melrose building, the red brick building to the younger kids, like that story's never really been told. Right. And what the horrors that went on there made the fountain building, which we know, which was a horror show, seem like a trip to Cabo. Okay. And so, when I look at how many friends that I have from that, dead friends I have from suicide, where they can't function in life. I talked to one of them today. He was in that building with me, at that red brick building on Melrose. The older kids fared a little bit better, but we were 5, 4, 3. And I started in this thing as an infant in downtown LA. Like that kid that I talked to today, like he can't function. He can't even work. He's a really productive person, but he has so many autonomic diseases from the stresses that he can't, literally his body can't function. I'm working heavily right now on getting him treated. So for me, my answer to that question is being alive, being an art, just being able to exist and do art and being a relatively functional person. I mean, I think to people that don't know the true story, that will sound like a crazy thing to say. But if you really
Yeah.
knew the level of degradation, the level of physical abuse, the level of neglect, the level that, they treated us like animals. We were being penned. It wasn't even like they were trying to hurt us. It was like, let's put them over there until they're old enough to serve as labor. So no one was looking at our bodies, the physical conditions. I don't even want to get into that right now. But
No, that's okay.
yeah, but so for me, and look, with the friends that I have that didn't make it, I have 3 that I'm sitting thinking, not even all of them are friends. Kids, some of them are just people that I knew. One of them, was somebody that, committed suicide recently and left behind 2 kids, in the last few years. No one paid any attention. Her dad was one of the original SO members, and nobody, she came and went, committed suicide, left a note, left her 2 kids. And there was no whimper or celebration made of what happened to her. Okay.
That's sad.
Yeah. So, and then, when I spoke out, there was one of my close friends when I was a kid was this kid named Mark Peters. He was at the Fountain Building, and he was just a special kid that, he taught us how to, he was just a special kid that, taught us how to like hot wire cars in the parking structure. But when I spoke out a little over a year ago, one of his close friends reached out to me, and I was like, "Oh, how's he doing?" And he's like, "He's not doing drug overdose." So I've lost a lot of friends. So, just being alive and being able to function at any sort of level, where I'm not constantly disappointed in myself. And being alive and the fact that I'm facing my shame, I guess, is my biggest accomplishment.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
You had time to think, Serge. What about you?
Yeah, no, I love what you're just sharing in this situation, Jamie, because it really is about harnessing our relationship with pain. And there's so many horrific trauma coping mechanisms that now we understand. As you said, Jamie, I was also born in the Sea Org. So in Mexico, this was the Mexican Cadet Org, another cadet org that you don't even think even existed, because who come from a Mexican Cadet Org? And yet in Mexico, this thing was on fire in the late 70s. And people were being recruited in droves from the best of the best Mexican families you can think of. The celebrities were coming in. It was the same exact scheme and gimmick. And it is being exposed to those levels of neglect as infants that we had no voice at the time, and we had no understanding, and we had nothing to compare anything to. And it's living in that box that was created in this vortex of commercial buildings and hotels. Because going back to, that's the thing that I'm most proud of, that we've been able to gain the level of discernment necessary to understand the facts and the truth, and take all the embellishments away and strip things down to it is what it is. It's not personal. This was the rhetoric of a convicted felon that was role played en masse. Is the solution to lock up all the parents and put them in handcuffs? No one is saying that, but the solution is to state what the facts are and to confront what the facts are, because that's where people can then are given an option to go through an off ramp of that freeway of dysfunction, right? And that's what we're providing by stating the facts, stating the truth. It's like, you cannot hurt us anymore. We're not in a position to be hurt today. Are we coping with a lot of that? Yes. But we're not in a position to be hurt today, because now we're being that change that we needed to see when we were inside, Jamie. And we have to be voices that advocate to circumvent all the level of playing dumb that comes with propping up these hotels and commercial buildings from hell that have no legitimacy to operate outside of delusions of grandeur of self-infantilized adults that brought themselves to that level, that made some agreement with L. Ron Hubbard to become fanatical to the point that parents give their own kids to their own fanaticism. We're talking about you can be fanatical about Elvis Presley. Doesn't mean that you're literally turning over your physical kids to the Elvis Presley estate. So we had a level of fanatical that we're sounding the alarm on. And yeah, we
Totally
are,
wild.
Jamie, that where is the alarm being sounded? Like, and I get it, all the trauma and all the pain and all of this, but it's like it's giving people don't want to confront. And they were given
Right.
the tool how to confront inside of the hotel.
So
So
Serge, we are going to go there. We're going to step us there. Okay. Do you mind? So we're going to go there with the confront, and we're going to go there with some solutions and some ideas.
I would like to make one 20-second comment on something he said that I think is really important before we move
Absolutely.
on really quickly. You know, you made a comment about, this, we're trying to move on. We're trying to heal. Okay. And that's the issue here for me, and then I'll shut up. I think it's really, really salient and important and profound. Okay. Is because the first generation people that built this thing, and even some of the second generation people, want to not fully call this thing what it was. They whitewash it. Mm-hmm. So then, and we already carry all this shame, and we were programmed to believe everything was our fault. We were programmed to believe everything was no big deal, no matter what they did to us. Be competent, make it go right, whatever. Okay. So we're easily able to go along with our programming of, let's not make a big deal about what happened to us. We're responsible for everything that happens to us. Then you have these people that don't have any empathy. So the whole thing about what it did gets whitewashed. And so we can't heal because we won't look at it. And I think that's what Serge is pointing out that I think is so important. If we want to heal, if those of us that had to deal with this thing want to heal, we have to call it what it is. We have to scour it out and look at all of it. And I feel like we haven't done that. You're one of the few people that beats that drum. I want to help with, that's what I'm most interested in this subject, is how come people won't talk about the kids. I just find it, and how come whenever they do, it's like, oh yeah, what's the big deal? We're all the same. Let's get over it. Like, no, when you start talking about what was done to these kids, I didn't even know there was a cadet org in Mexico City. And even what is a cadet org, but just a slum fake name for a child abuse center that's not up to code. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, I didn't want to skip over that, because I think that
no, it's okay.
That's the issue, is like, we're trying to heal. To heal, it needs to be acknowledged. In all of it needs to be acknowledged, or I don't think I can get over it. I don't know if Serge can get over it. I don't want to speak for him. I wonder if Laura can get over it. I just don't know if we can get over it if people that were part of it continue to pretend that it never happened. That's my concern.
Well, Jamie, and just to finish your point before we go to what you were just about to say, Mona, we can get over the fact that it's still going on. That's the thing that I can't. There is no healing when everything that we denounced is actively being perpetrated on kids en masse, and everybody knows about it. Again, everybody knows about it. Everything we say, whether I find a word to call it a role play, like I said, Jamie, trying to deconstruct all these complications that have been purposely added to keep the subject like you're in some sort of moving sands, and you can't. It's very perplexed. It's a technology, but it's a religion, but it's a this, but it's a that, but it's bullshit, is what it is. And that's where I think we're going with this, because the fact is that every danger that we were exposed to is still actively being facilitated, and we cannot move from it because it's still being facilitated, and it just cannot be. And if it's taking us to have to bring it down to the bone so no one can play dumb anymore, because that's the point here, right? It's like we're explicitly exposing everything down to the core, so no one can play dumb. The shame belongs to L. Ron Hubbard, who said to do it all. And then, yes, whoever the hell signed up to do that, you'll have your own shame to carry for having done that bidding. But the good news is you were following L. Ron Hubbard. The degeneration was pitched by him. Everything was done according to what he said. I mean, we know how far they went in terms of that.
Quick question. if they would acknowledge what was done to you, what was done to me. Did you go in as a baby like me, like young, like
I was born into it. I was
into
literally, my
into
parents
the
were in the Sea Org already
in
when
the
I was
inner
born.
Navy, so similar to me. Like, you know, if we can't acknowledge that that happened, you know, how can we acknowledge that it's happening now? If we can't even get the people to acknowledge that that happened properly, and what
That's a
it means, yeah,
100% point.
okay.
Exact point. Yeah.
And I do feel, and I would like to know Serge's point of view on, you know, I do feel that one of the things that has kept me in a state of kind of suspended animation or shock for a long time and kind of kept me in the shame is that the people that were the adults in this thing at the time that are now out won't acknowledge it and water it down. And I want to know if you think that that prevents not only the healing of what it going on now, but also our healing now as grown men.
Well, certainly, because we have the issue. The one thing that I will agree with L. Ron Hubbard is the one thing man can't and won't confront is evil, right? And what we're talking about, what we just said, like everything of what L. Ron Hubbard proposed is so evil and disgusting and indefensible that the only reason we have even been able to call something a cadet org is because it's been that sanitizing language, false sanitizing language. I mean, talk about L. Ron Hubbard said the misunderstood word could create a lot of problems for you. Well, imagine how many words were invented to sanitize the unthinkable, because
Right.
that's where we are, right? It's like the entire language sanitizes an operation that when you undress it from the disgustingness, you end up just wanting to projectile vomit. It's like, what in the literal fucking hell is actually being done? It's all been just so groomed and normalized to the point that people cannot confront just how evil, how the power dynamic imbalance is so disgusting. And given the fact that it was imposed on kids that we didn't know anything, we had no fucking clue. Everything seemed weird. Everybody seemed weird, but you were always told that you're the weird one because everyone is doing all these like false, like, oh, I'm having so many wins. I can't stop winning. And the wins just keep coming. And you're like, what the fuck is anyone actually talking about? Because it's all just word salad being literally regurgitated 24/7, 365. And that's what I go. It's like these people became dangerous infantile adults because they started, oh, let's all play a game. It's like, it's not play a game when your kids are involved. Like you can play your adult games all in your cells. Had this been 21 and up, Jamie, I don't think that if you and I would have joined this shit at 26 and said, oh yeah, this is what I really want to do, and then they would have abused us and done some shady, then okay, you get out of this and you're like, how stupid was I to let them treat me like shit?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's bad on me. It's the problem is, like you said, we were babies. The problem is that it was what they did in our formative years. That's what you cannot reverse. That's the irreversible. That's what we're having to live with the handicap. And that's where I feel like with Mona, like, you know, the disability, it creates a disability. All the friends that you just said that are not here, they all develop unthinkable disabilities because when you expose kids to this, it's just, what in the literal hell? And we have to confront the evil of what it was and not take it personal. Like, do I blame my parents? Like, the scam was so good that they would do whatever in the hell they told them, and they were idiots, and I'm pissed at them, and I'm enraged because it's not right. At its most basic level, it's not right, and it's indefensible, right? And it's like, does it suck that it happened to us? It does, right? But it's not.
The message to me was, we know you're suffering, but if you want to save the world, your job is to suffer.
Yeah.
That was really the constant indoctrination when I was 3, 4, 5. But we know you're suffering. We know
it's a false superiority complex. It's all the writing on this false superiority complex. Like, we're so much better than everyone else. It's like, it's all the complexes of being superior and then some in here, because the words make them think that they're superior. They're like, oh, only you and I get when we speak in the ARC triangle shit, and we really are superior than everyone else. It's this false intellect that is actually creating them becoming so stupid, becoming so moronic, not knowing, not being able to perceive reality for what it is. I mean, that's what's so sickening to me. It's like, this man dehumanized our parents to the point that they became him, and
I think,
maybe
I
they
mean,
weren't set up for
yeah.
that.
One really good point you make that I think gets often overlooked, that you said a couple times, is this concept of the infantilization. People have to understand that the parents give, not only do they give over their kids, they give up so much power of their own thought to this commander that they become babies. They become infantilized. We get out 20 years later, we're babies. We grew up with the commander knowing everything. He's still in our head. You see, right. So
Right.
one thing you will see with people that are so-called Scientologists, what you will see is people that have daddies always overlooking them, and even if they don't realize it, they kind of feel and act like babies. This infantilization point is huge because you give over so much. I think in terms of understanding what it does to people, it infantilizes people, and then they leave, and the thoughts are still in their head, so they're still being infantilized by it, and it's been 30 years. And
so do you think the verbiage and the infantilization and all of that is a root cause of the whitewash?
I do.
Well,
I'm one of them. Sorry, Serge.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that, Alex Gibney and Lawrence Wright did get one phrase right about the documentary: the prison of belief. And that prison of belief is implanted by word salad, that people are groomed into believing it means something. And such a big deal is made about those words. And God forbid that you don't know the definition of one of those words, because you will be defaulting literally as a human. You won't be able to function as a human if you don't know one of the words that L. Ron Hubbard suggested to change reality. I mean, imagine how stupid and how dark that is, because, as humans, we control each other through language. Like,
It's why I don't use the words. I don't believe there's a cadet org. I call it the inner navy. Let's call it the child neglect abuse slum office building would be a better name for it. Like, there's all these fancy, Church makes a really good point. I mean, there's all these fancy words that describe horrible things. The Sea Org is a bunch of nut jobs running around in Navy uniforms in a desert, downtown Los Angeles, the English countryside, downtown Copenhagen, outside of Sydney. Like, you have to not use the words and actually describe what it is, right? They're not sex checks, they're interrogations. Right? It's not auditing, it's the planting of false memories, but more importantly, the planting of false crimes. When you run, right?
The whole role play, the whole audit role play, Jamie, is so disgusting, because it is an extreme role play. I mean, I was, for all intents and purposes, a child dominatrix. That's what you become. You become the dominator of a grown-ass woman or man that's paying upwards of $500 an hour to be dominated by you.
Yeah,
this. Everybody knows this. This is not like we're not shocking anybody when we state the facts, right? And then those are the facts that have not been confronted, because it's all hidden under this slum of words that are just pathetic. They're pathetic beyond. All the words are pathetic beyond. And that's where I go, the infantile adult only game. Like, maybe you all get off playing double agent and interrogators that can go wherever they want, because that's what these audits provide: unlimited access to someone that is in a very vulnerable state, because they're there with these cans. They can't move, they can't say anything, and they're getting interrogated, and they're having children being served on gold platters to these people that we don't see anything wrong with this, because this guy's not a child, that one's an adult, that one's, they were prodigies. Like, the younger you are, the more you're lauded as some sort of like gold platter plate.
Honored.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Lewis, he was a class 4 at 14.
And so same like me.
Yeah, and he's no longer with us in a horrible, horrible, violent way, And
Again,
yeah, he
it's
was
for
he was a really good person, and somebody that I deeply liked and admired. And he, you know,
everybody was human, Jamie, and that's what they took away from everybody, right? Because it's like, are all Scientologists like, the devil incarnate? No, they're just all dehumanized people. They've been systemically all dehumanized. Like,
I think
they
that
are they are
Monet,
who they are who they are told they are. You are the RTC rep of reports. Okay,
so
I'm the RTC rep of report. What the fuck does that even mean?
yeah, it's all garbage. But I think that Mona, to me, in my opinion, what Serge just said is really the source of the whitewash of the kids. Lawrence Wright was asked in an interview if there's anything he left out of the book, and he said, "Yeah, I didn't really talk about the kids and how they're impoverished for the rest of their lives by their service, or they're just impoverished in their lives by their service." So he acknowledged that, right? But I think that is the root of it. The root of it is this thing systematically dismantles empathy in the people that do the courses and the services. No case on post, right? There's so many things that exist that cause you to deny the body, right? If you do bull baiting and someone's, which is like someone, yelling at you, trying to distract you, you're not allowed to flinch. You're turning off your empathy. You're turning off your ability to react. Well, you're not just going to react to negative things. You're also turning off your ability to react to maybe children being neglected, right? Like, so, even the way, even the terms, like I'm not talking to Serge right now. I'm like, a person isn't a person. They're a terminal. Everything is machined. Okay. Right. To take the humanity out of people and to turn it into a mechanized device. So the primary reason I don't see the differentiation between like Scientologists and ex-Scientologists. Like, I hear that a lot in the kind of on YouTube. It's completely different. Maybe because I've not been in that. I don't look at that like that at all. I look at it as like, who did criminal behavior, whether it violated a criminal code or not, and who didn't. That's what would be a much more responsible way to look at it. Okay, my mother didn't violate a law by turning me over to this Orwellian orphanage that really was abusive to children with disease and all that. But what she did was criminal. And so to me, I wish we would change the language to people that have left this movement and criminals that have left this movement. I think would be a way better way of talking about it. People that are responsible that have left this movement, that will acknowledge what happened, that are trying to regain empathy, and people that won't. This idea of ex-Scientologist and Scientologist, that's Hubbard. That's a Hubbard construct. And we just keep forwarding it, like Serge says, with the words. We've been taught this word ex-Scientologist. And so we built all of our ex activities around it. It's not what it is. It's people.
So if you're looking at somebody looking in, okay, you guys, I'm understanding what you're saying.
Okay.
But as a person looking in, why do you feel that? And I'm not going to use the word never end. That's not what I meant. But those of us that have not been into Scientology or a high control group, how come we don't see it? How come we see the whitewash?
Can I start, Serge, and you finish?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it starts I started doing non-reactionary drills, learning how to not react when I was 4 years old. Okay. So, and then did these into till I was 19. Okay. Various times. It starts to me with this thing called TR0 eyes open. That's where it starts. Okay.
Okay.
Because you're doing that before you're doing the processing does some things to you. Okay. But I don't want to get into all that because it's a can of worms. But like one of the things you do early on is you learn to sit without moving or twitching, facing another person. Okay. If you move at all or you twitch at all, you get a flunk or a fail. Okay. It's not that hard to do. And it can sometimes even be somewhat relaxing, even though it's weird. It can be uncomfortable, but like you can go through this thing where you're almost, it's okay when you have your eyes closed, and even controlling your body can sometimes feel good. Once you get into the non-reactionary drill where you do your eyes open, which is the next one, you're forced to stare at somebody for hours. without twitching or moving or even blinking. If you blink, you fail. Human beings are designed to blink. You have to blink to wet your eyes. You're not supposed to not blink for 3 hours. That's incredibly uncomfortable. So what they're doing right there, this is the beginning of it, and it's woven all the way up through the rest of all the levels, is they're beginning to teach you to deny your body. Your body is saying, I don't want to sit here. I want to be out of here. This is uncomfortable. I do not want to be here right now. It is impossible to sit here and not twitch. It is impossible to sit here and not blink. I'm 5 years old. Nope, flunk, try it again. Nope, fail, try it again. So right there is where they begin what is all the way through this doctrine, all the way through these constructs, is deny the body. So
as a person looking into the window, I don't see the pain.
You can't,
so
there's nothing like that in another religion to compare it to. I'd love Serge to comment on this, but this is the last thing I'll say about it. Okay. Our bodies, there's that body, the body keeps the score, right? Okay. Our bodies tell us when something's wrong. That's how the nervous system works, right? Like we see somebody hit by a car, our nervous system goes crazy. Now, it's not always right, but our body is the best way to tell. We can feel, like, we get around a bad person, we can feel it. Okay. So we rely on our body to tell us when something's wrong. They start telling us to not pay attention to the body and training us and grooming us and conditioning us to not pay attention to the body. It's one of the first things you do, and it's woven all the way through as a constant thing you're doing. Deny the body, deny the body. Then 5 years later, you're going to do your courses and you see a kid, that looks like out of a Charles Dickens novel that downtown LA, doesn't have any parents. He's wandering around by himself at 6 years old, like he knows where he's going. And all of a sudden, and you just walk on past. Why? Because you've been training for the last 5 years. Normally, somebody sees a kid in that condition. I'd love to know what Serge thinks of this. Your body's going to have a reaction to a kid walking. If I'm walking down the street and I see a kid by themselves, it doesn't look like they have a parent, I get a feeling in my body. Okay. Hundreds and thousands of these people don't get that feeling. And I believe it's because, and that's why they deny it now. I think it starts with the fact that we're conditioned from the beginning to not pay attention to the body, which is what saves us. Anyway, I'd love to know what Serge thinks of that, but that's my thought.
What are your thoughts, Serge?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of these drills, Jamie, that we really have to, and going back to the point, it's like, even the drill is the false definition, right? Because everything happened in reality, but it was all hogwash. Oh, it's a drill. Oh, it's all make believe. Like,
yeah.
You have the children, like you said, like the child's being told, and again, going back to these TRs, guys, they were so sexual with it. And they would tell you, oh, that could come up in a session. So you really want to be prepared for when that gets thrown at you in a session, that you act natural, relaxed, and friendly, you guys. Those are the only ways you can react in those sessions. If you're being sexually assaulted, that's your only way you can react. You cannot have another mode. Going back to what you were just saying, it's like they're disconnecting us because they were turning us into these performative bots, because we were just regurgitating whatever the policy of L. Ron Hubbard said to say, because otherwise our heads would be chopped off. Like, that's how much oversight there was about everything. And that's why, going back to your point, Jamie, about these, so-called executives, they had oversight over everything. There is no one that was touched by the situation that had an executive position that doesn't have a level of oversight that they're going to wish today they never had. Because you know what? With oversight and with information comes responsibility. If you're brokering obstruction of justice 24/7, 365, that's a crime. Whether you were calling it, oh, I'm just doing another session, like, that's why the words do matter. If somebody is giving you a felony in one of these sessions and it's being given to a child who's already been conditioned to really clean that up because they've done all the TRs, I mean, that's the trajectory of dysfunction, that the path of this dysfunctional tornado that rips apart any common sense, because everything about it is just stupid, indefensible, moronic, and it's all just being role played, and it's all being like, oh, it's very special, it's a technology. It's like, it's not technology. Or if we're going to call it a technology, that's fine, but technology and theology is not interchangeable. And it was more technology than theology, because theology is interpreted, and you could say, oh, that person had a horrible interpretation. Here, everyone was supposed to interpret everything the exact same. That's why you and I did the exact same drill that taught us the exact same thing, because we're all the same. There was no, everything is the same.
Yeah, and people are complex. You know, like I've come to believe that most trauma is biological. It's the brain, it's brain health, it's the nervous system, it's the vagal nerve. Okay, although all of those things can be remediated, but they're different for every person.
That's
You know,
right.
we're getting, like, again, the hard disconnect. It's so inside baseball, everything to do with this. Serge used the word TRs. That just means non-reactionary training, training to not react, which we starts as young as 4 years old. Okay, which starts to bleed out empathy. Everything, you know. You're trying to.
You talk about bleed out empathy. Remember, empathy was and having being propitiative, like having any kind of that was, ew, you're disgusting. You're being compassionate. Like, it was a dirty word. You're supposed to be ruthless. You're supposed to be, where is this? Why isn't it done? Who's slacking off over here? Not like, oh, what's your problem? Oh, you can't get this done? Oh,
Yeah,
what's wrong? Let's help you. Oh, you're having a problem with this? Oh, you don't understand it? Oh, here's how to understand it. That it's like, why are you?
He just hit the heart of it. You just hit the heart of it, because what you're really saying, like what you're saying with that, is like sympathy is considered evil. It's considered like a really, really low form of being, like
Weakness. It's like weakness.
Yeah, being sympathetic is worse than being a pedophile. And then what happens is in that group, they conflate sympathy with empathy. So empathy is bad. Any sort of empathy is, look, oh my God, you're being empathetic to that person. What's wrong with you? Now, that doesn't mean a few people don't do it, because there's a lot of good people in there trying to do good. They think they're doing good. But generally, the feeling is, you see somebody being overly empathetic. That's the kind of thing, if somebody was walking around being empathetic all the time, that person would end up in the re-education camp doing hard labor for the next 5 to 10 years. And they know it. They know that if they're seen, like, I mean, you know, you and I were probably in Florida at the same time. We had some crossover, I'm sure, at Florida in the mid 90s, probably late 90s.
I was there from 93 to 2004.
Okay. So you were there right after me. But I was a kid under Debbie. I mean, it was pretty draconian, man. It was pretty.
You were at the QI?
No, I was at the Hacienda.
Okay.
Okay, but
horrible.
It was horrible. But you know, and I had special perks, but it was still horrible. But you know, this thing of you know, under Debbie was very draconian. I mean, she was the kind of person who was like, it was all force. You know, if she saw you being empathetic, you'd be doing hard labor. I mean, that's the kind of vibe it was. You know, when she does that video where she's like in the trash can with the lesbian sign and all that stuff, and she's like the victim with the hair. She's painting a picture of herself that's not how she was when she was in a naval Class A uniform, walking around in Central Florida. Her authority was very different. She was very authoritarian, very dictatorial, and very oppressive person. So this thing of, you know, empathy, most people in that group would not know the difference between empathy or sympathy. So any empathy is evil. So you just don't do it, because if you start being empathetic, someone's going to go, God, he's being sympathetic. Let me write a report on him. Right. So empathy is just non-existent. So you have to turn the nervous system off. You have to turn the body off to survive. And, you know, the reason people don't get it is it's just too inside baseball. It's like, name me another religion where the guy was in the Guinness Book of World Records for having written more than anybody else in human history, where there's volumes of like red volumes that you'd see like in a law office of how to do his processes on people, or how to do his management. Like, it's tomes. Everything is done away, from washing windows to driving a car to what's acceptable sexually. everything is written down and everything has to be followed exactly. And he talks out of both sides of his mouth because he says, oh, it's not true for you, it's not true, and blah, blah, blah. But then if you don't do it exactly how he says it, down to how you walk, move, FO38, whatever, then you
flunk.
are then you have to go look up your words, which again, it's really uncomfortable to sit there and clear a word, to look up all the it makes you clear the etymology, and then you go on a chain, and you could be clearing one word for an hour. It's very uncomfortable in the body. So it's like, it's better to just agree to something you don't agree with than to go off and painstakingly, even when you're sitting in a classroom, you're not allowed to move, twitch, go look up your words. So you deny the body to not move so that they'll leave you alone, so you don't have to look up a word. It's constant conditioning. So
God
you
forbid
don't pay
you
attention.
yawn. God forbid you yawn.
Oh my God.
Like,
listen, she's gonna.
You just literally committed a crime. What word did you just go by? You're about to commit a. I mean, it's so.
She's got a vacuum. I'll be back in 7 minutes if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll be right back. So sorry, guys, but I'll be back. Okay.
That's
I'm just
okay.
gonna mute. Okay.
We can talk some birthday stuff.
Definitely.
I'll wait for Jamie to come back because I have a couple of important questions that I want to ask you guys. I knew we wouldn't get out of here doing 5 minutes because you guys are just way too intelligent. You know, I love the way your guys' brain works. I love the way it peels the onion, and I love that about you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we're all on a quest for facts and truth, and because that is the ultimate healing. That is the ultimate, and you give yourself that healing once you know the facts and the truth. Like, part of the trauma that we experience, and I was gonna touch upon that more, and what he was bringing up is going back again to, like, when a victim of rape knows that the rapist is still out there doing it, there's no way to have it stop. Like, the concern and that re-traumatization happens all the time because that he's still out there. That there's still the victims are coming to them, and again, it's like that. It's almost like as if you're still being abused because they have frozen you into time when that was happening to you, where you didn't understand any of the things. Like, we're going back to this point, Mona, where all the kids thought that everything was legit. We've gone from
Everything was normal.
one pendulum string to the other, right? Like, from everything was legal, everything was legit, everything had a policy, like what Jamie just said, policies and policies and garbage written on pieces of paper to have no standing, that actually have no meaning. These people add so much meaning to it because, again, they get roped into this, like, we're all playing a game, we're all checking a book. L. Ron Hubbard did say this, but L. Ron Hubbard is just full of his paradoxes because he's so insane. He makes no sense. He makes no good points. And that's what all these con men always do. They make everything complicated. And that's all that ever actually happens. Oh,
Yeah,
my
because
goodness.
the more complicated.
Well, hello.
Hello. Happy
Welcome to
birthday.
our little birthday stream.
Oh,
Thank
hi,
you.
Liz Gale.
Hi, Mona. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I just got done with physical therapy. I'm sitting in my car.
How's your damn.
I can do so
Nice.
much. Yeah.
The body is so powerful. It's
It's
amazing what the
very,
body can do.
yeah, I have been learning a lot about the body and about my limitations and about healing. It's a
Right?
wild
Think about
ride.
it. You shattered it. And it's like the fact that you're just like, and it's like that's what time, like that's where you go, oh my God, like the evolution of everything coming together again.
Yeah, it's weird that you can, well, your bone can regrow to heal itself, I don't know why we can't just regrow our arms, but I'm
in our
surprised at what
brain.
my body can do.
Our brain, we're so
Really? I
busy
know, I'm
producing.
paralyzed, right? Remember? I wish
I
the
do.
spine could just heal and that it's amazing what does and doesn't heal. Yeah.
Right? I know. I find it really interesting, but I feel really lucky because the pain is so much less now, and that is a godsend for sure. So,
Yes.
Yeah, the
yeah,
pain is what's really hard. Yeah.
yeah, for
Was
sure.
that your right arm?
Hmm.
So that, and are you left-handed? No.
No, I'm right-handed. Yeah,
So how has that been having to switch your entire like life around? Because it's, again, it's like we take so many things for granted, and then one thing like
yeah.
this happens when you have this disability, and you're like, what? Like,
I mean, I think the most that because I would keep reaching to do things that think that I can do. I think the biggest thing for me was like being okay with the limitations and honoring the limitations and understanding that like there's no point in me trying to exceed the limitations because like to try and do something that my body just can't do is a recipe for disaster. So just being okay with what I could do, I found really challenging, but I put my heart and soul into like being okay exactly where I was every step of the way is like the only way that I could do it. If that makes sense.
it does. It
And
does.
sometimes it's humorous, like when your husband was doing your hair for you. That was absolutely hilarious. However, it also kind of taught you a lesson about letting somebody help you, letting somebody bless you with the help, no matter how good or bad it ends up. Sometimes it's easier to ask for the help than it is to have to ask for the help after you dump everything off your lap and then you got to clean it off the floor. It would have been easier just to say, "Hey, could you help me get this to begin with?" Yeah.
Yes, and that is a powerful lesson that I don't think I could have learned without like something really taking me out of commission.
Hmm.
So, I
Yeah.
Well,
mean,
and the guilt of feeling like a burden too, because then you have that, then you have the help, and then then you start, guilting yourself, like, oh, I'm such a burden.
yeah.
This is such a problem. I'm creating so much problems. Like it, and your head just starts going, and it's unwinding that subconscious script that it just exists because that every time we were in that problem in those vulnerable years, we always felt like a burden. We always felt like a problem. So I'm finding that a lot of it is, really getting into self-awareness because we get
Yeah.
hijacked by our thoughts and then we start making all these ideas of the, and then it's like, oh, it's just check out for a minute, ground yourself, get back to reality, and heal. And then the more you do that, I mean, it's incredible to see that you have that much mobility now, given what you just been through. I mean, I still remember like the day after it happened that we talked and you were like pretty scared. I remember.
Super scared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is not good. Like,
Big time.
yeah.
I've never broken a bone before. So to break like a bone that required surgery and pins and having it be my dominant hand has been not cool. And I do notice, like you were saying about the productivity, like, or the being a burden, there is such a deep programming in me still to this day. And I try to be aware of it. I try to like sidestep it or get ahead of it. But the whole like production equals morale, that's a Scientology little saying that basically like nobody feels good unless they're producing something, or that like my worth is associated with what I can produce. And so I felt like my stats, for lack of a better word, just like crashing around me.
Mhm.
And feeling as if I was going to somehow be getting in trouble, which for, a 40 something year old woman who like has her own life is a ridiculous notion, really.
Yeah.
Um, but feeling it in my body, like kind of feeling like a little kid of like, oh my gosh, I didn't get like my stuff done. What's going to happen? And of course, nothing bad happened.
Well, and it's that inherent worth, right? Because it's like
Mhm.
we're always going outside of ourselves to look for our worth, as that was survival for us before.
Right.
But like you said, it's like it's something that has nothing to do with today because we are self-sufficient. But we're just dancing with all the bad coping mechanisms. That's what I call it. It's like
I know.
that's the only thing you can do. You gotta dance with it. Like, don't try to, it's not gonna go away, it's not gonna stop.
Mhm.
You just learn how to dance with it, how to move with it, how to integrate it, how to acknowledge it. It's like,
Mhm.
you know,
And change your stat. That's the other thing that I'm
Right?
like, duh. Now my statistics are how many hours I can sit on this bed and do nothing.
Right.
How many shows can I binge today? That will be my statistic. I'm in
Your
power.
new stat.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is funny thinking about all the things I wish I had known when I was, a kid. And these rules seemed so incredibly rigid. Like statistics, for example, and it's like the angle of the line of going up or down is your condition, and it dictates your life.
mhm,
Um, but you can make your graph however you want. And if you, depending on how
Right.
you make your graph, is how steep, your lines are, your angles are. I just never knew that when I was a kid. Yay! All these wishes. I love it.
absolutely.
What do
And are
you
you back to making art?
Yeah, I am back to making art. I've been making some art. I actually put a couple of things on eBay. There's one more day for them. That was my birthday present to myself, was to get out of my comfort zone and do
Good.
something scary. Which to me, being vulnerable artist wise is scary, is outside of my comfort zone. So yeah. So what are you doing for your birthday?
Well, just having conversations. Like I said in the title of this live, all I want for my birthday
Oh,
is no more kids in Scientology.
I
It's
wish
very
I could give
simple.
that to you.
It's
I
very
wish I could just
simple.
make that happen and just poof, give that to
Well,
With the
you.
yeah.
magic wand. Yep.
Yes,
Well,
Jamie, is Jamie
absolutely.
back on? Is Jamie coming back on?
he is, but he's not back on just yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's
So you guys, I mean, as a birthday present, Serge, I want to give you something. So we talk about how we got into this, or similarities, and why I always feel like Serge and Liz, you're one of the ones that I quote when I say, Serge and Lara and Liz, Amber and Nora, you guys are all my heartbeats when I'm doing this. And you guys can't see it. I have scars. The surgeon hid them well, but from here down, I'm pretty mangled and pretty scarred up. And that's really, I'm saying it nicely.
Hmm.
And the scars, effectually, it makes me feel like a burden. It makes me feel unlovable. Makes me feel sometimes unworthy of being loved. And then I think, you know what? You guys have scars too. And they may not be visible. I won't say they're invisible because they're not invisible, but you guys have scars too. And I'm still going to be your friend, and I'm still going to be your um, major supporters, but not because of your scars, but maybe in spite of your scars. And I try and relate that to myself too, so that way we're all the same. We're all on the same playing field.
Hmm.
And we all have scars. We all have battles that we need to endure. And is my gift to you. That's what I want to be able to help you overcome your scars and help you heal. Because a good friend of mine told me, my scars may be here and they're in my past, but they're also in my present. And so how we deal with them together as a team is what's going to get us over it.
I love that. Well, thank you for that present.
Hey,
You're
Liz,
welcome.
Gail.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Good, good. Good to see your face.
Yeah, you too.
I
Well,
always like Liz, Gail.
I'd love to get. I have a question for Serge and Liz. Based on what you just said. One of the things that I feel like happens, you know, I don't know if you were listening, Liz, but I was talking about like, I don't see it as like people that were in it and ex people that were in it. I don't see it like that because I was not part of, I see it as more like people that were in it that did bad things that are out of it now, and whether they're being accountable or not. I did bad things, and I've tried to go around and apologize where I could. Okay. So I don't really like the construct of like SCNer, ex-SCNer. I just think that's more of an extension of what Hubbo wanted, like with XSO. Everything's a stigma. XSCN is a stigma. And I think some people in there, most people are good, but some of the people that came out and did bad things don't think they're accountable because it was just some shit mob stuff they did when they were on the inside. But one of the things that I have the hardest time with, and I'd love for either of you guys to comment on this, is people treat me like what Mona said, like all this stuff is in my past, right? But it's not in my past. Like I don't have my family now. You know, Danny is struggling with whatever Danny struggles with now, right? So like this stuff is, you know, your brother's not here now, right? Like I always feel like it's really, really in my present. Like it's something that I deal with in the present every single day. But the vibe I get from the first generation people or the people that built it is like, well, that's past. And that's a very Hubbo concept because it's like ancient history. You know, don't be stuck in the past.
Come to present time.
Yeah, come into present time. But all these things of having no family, being away from my family, having family that are struggling, you know, not having had to give away all of my friends, that's right now. It's not in my past. And so I get really offended because that's a line I mostly hear from the guys that came in the 70s, 60s that built it. So I'd just be curious how do you guys see this as something that you're recovering from for your past, or do you see it as something that's in your here and now? I'm curious if you process it the same way.
Well, I mean, I would just say that as much as they want to say it's in the past, it's in the present, because as we know, everything that happened to us is still happening to other kids. If this was a thing of the past, if this was completely abolished for the kids, if there was not one single kid there or that could be exposed to it, I would not be speaking about this. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, wow.
I would have what would be the reason? Like, I'm not here, like some grown adult wants to do whatever it is that they think that is very good for them to be doing. Miss me with it. Plenty of people do many bad things with their lives and choices. They're all over every street corner. A bad choice is at every street corner you could go. But here we know that what the problem was with us not having a childhood, it was a systemic issue. It wasn't that, oh, this is an issue that Liz had because her mom was really bad. Like her mom, my mom, your mom, all made the exact same bad choice, bad decision that landed us in the exact same level of vulnerability that we would not wish on our worst enemy, much less if they're in their childhood. Like, you don't wish what was done to you as a child on other kids, period. And the reason that we're here is no one gave an F when that was being done to us. That's the problem, right? That's the only, like, what was happening then, what's happening now. Back then, no one gave an F. No one saw it for whatever reason. They normalized it. They went mutual out routes, to borrow their own words. Okay, so you all became blind to it. It's called betrayal. Blindness is what that gets developed. And everyone here has been betrayed. Every single mother was betrayed. Every single father was betrayed. And as a result, then we were stuck with parents that were betrayed, stuck in a scam that put them in places that to do a lot of bad stuff that, again, parents should not be doing. And that is the only power that we do have now. It's like calling out Grant Cardone. You're a disgusting father. You're normalizing these things for kids and you're acting like this is a great thing that you're doing. Wake the F up and really read L. Ron Hubbard in a new unit of time, to borrow your own words, so all of you can stop playing dumb. That's the only time where we're going to invoke the terms so that the people that are on the inside stop playing dumb. It's like, get your fucking ethics in, your legal one, not the one that you get at a hotel, not the one that you broker some 16-year-old girl to say, oh yeah, let me read your overts. Oh, you're masturbating thinking about this and that. Oh, you know what? We want you to write more on that. Come back when you're done with that. That's what's being offered at those hotels. So for under the banner of whatever the hell delusion these people want to call. And that's what we're calling out. We're calling out your delusion. We're doing you a favor. This is not us coming from some superiority complex. We're so much better off. We're disgusted. We're incensed. Like, why are people not incensed? Why is there so few of us disgusted with this, right? And it's like, that's where I feel like we have our power. Our power is understanding that the shame doesn't belong to us when we had no say on anything. And now that this is being exposed on kids, I mean, even like Liz went to learn child development in the outside world because she was like, this shit is fucked up. Like, what am I not getting? Like, what? This looked so fucking official and policies and this and that, and everyone's doing it and everybody acted like it was all great. But then you go to the WOG University where, common sense rules. Is everything great and wonderful that's been written in books? No, plenty bad ideas have been pitched, but there's a level of thread of common sense and good faith that is not found in L. Ron Hubbard's rhetoric. And that's the problem, because there is no good faith in his entire concept is based on bad faith.
I agree.
How about you, Liz? Is this in your past or is it in your present?
Oh, sadly, it is in my present. Ever loving in my present. I think, though, that the fact that it is still in my present or your present highlights exactly why children should not be in Scientology. I truly believe that being exposed to Scientology during the developmental periods of life, like before we have full identities, outside of Scientology, I think it's so dangerous, because if Scientology is built into your framework as a kid, I think it is a recipe for always having Scientology be in the present for that person. Mm-hmm. So if you infuse a childhood with Scientology and then that kid grows up and is like, oh, I don't want to do this, even if they don't speak out or whatever, it's still become a part of core of who they are. It's how you think of the world, how you see the world. And yeah, we can reprogram, and it's a lot of hard work. You guys know this, preaching to the choir here, but I think when it happens to you, when Scientology happens to you as a child, I genuinely believe that that's the recipe for it always being in your life. So some of these old timers who are like saying that to you, Jamie, saying, oh, why can't you just get over it? I would hazard a guess that they had a life before Scientology. They had an identity. They had a sense of self before Scientology. If you do not have a sense of self before Scientology, and Scientology is infused as a part of your sense of self, I mean, that's some of the hardest human mental work to do, as far as I've come across, is changing or working on or even noticing what it is, those core values. Like, Scientology was presented to us like science. Like, there's gravity and there's the boiling temperature and there's PTSness. There's oxygen.
That was my next specific question I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here, because I feel like, Serge and I were born into the machine and the inside the machine, and you were kind of born in an affluent family, kind of more outside the machine. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily know that Serge and I have received more damage. And also, you're educated in child development, right? So you have education in that. So can you, like, just based on what you just said, it's really interesting to me. How do you see, like, what constructs in the early childhood do you feel like this thing messes with a kid, whether they're inside of it or they're outside of it, like you? What's doing the damage? Like, what particular constructs?
I mean, this is probably way above my pay grade, but from personal experience, I would say, for one, like attachment, the bond of attachment. When you're raising a child as a pure total Scientologist, like child Dianetics, like you are on source, everything's Scientology. Your relationship with a baby and meeting their needs is fundamentally different than if you're approaching it from any other religion, any other, like, the bond is temporary from being formed, right? Like, it's just one child in one life. So there's something there, or R factoring your children, or how you deal with human. Hi, Laura. Hi, Nora. how you deal with human emotion and reaction, how you respond to how they get hurt, right? You're like silent when they get hurt. So for me, it's the attachment and the trust. But this is too serious for all of our new friends here. Hi guys.
Hey guys. Oh, darling. I love that song, Laura, by the way. The Oh, Darling song. I love it. I love that melody.
And no, I'm literally getting therapy listening to everybody. I'm like, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. As
I am among the wannabes. You guys, all these artists. Oh my gosh. I need to just like bow out.
Welcome to the asylum. Welcome to the asylum. Happy birthday, sir.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm just
Oh, happy birthday, Sergi.
Thank you guys. That's so cute. I love it. I love that photo of us.
Happy birthday, sweet angel friend.
Thank you.
Literally right when I said that, the live was 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds. Thank you.
I love that.
Woo!
Nailed it.
That's great. Look
So
at us
continue,
all
Liz.
alive.
No,
Look
Liz,
at us all
this
live. Nailing it. What were you saying?
you continue what you were saying.
Oh,
I was
Is
just-
that even when we come out and we're like, we think that we don't have, we're like, oh, we're leaving. We left. It's like, actually, no, it's still in us. It's still now. It's still, we don't have our parents. It's still, I'm struggling with my family and my relationships.
yeah.
Mhm.
It is now. It's every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get triggered when we go and protest seeing little children going in and out of the organizations, even if it's just to
Yeah.
go sit on Santa Claus's lap. It's like, no. What does no mean? They can't say
Right.
that. Like, of course, we're going to be here doing whatever.
I thought Mitch Brisker said there were no more kids in there.
Mitch Brisker and I have a different understanding of children
Yeah.
and what children are. And, you know, it's really dangerous, too, the teenage years, because by the time somebody is willing to join the Sea Org, like if you are actually willing to make that commitment to join the Sea Org as a teenager, you've already been indoctrinated for like months or years. You know, it's not
Yeah.
like somebody just dives into that. You guys, I mean, unless you're born into it, but like for
You're
someone like
seduced
me,
into it, Liz.
to-
They seduced us because they're giving us
Yeah.
power. As teenagers, you're looking for power, right? You're looking for your place. How do I stand on my own? And that's what they were showing. Oh, this is now you're gonna be this post. Now you're gonna have this title, and you're thinking this is gonna go in your best interest, and it's not.
But it's not a real choice, right? Like when you're trying to get a kid to do something, okay, nap time, right? Like a kid's gonna take a nap. They have to take a nap. That's not the choice. The choice is, do you want to take a nap with your shoes on or your shoes off? Do you want to
Mhm.
read the book about the red hen or the book about the green turtle? And that's one of the things. It's like if you don't know your rights as a human being, because obviously you're a kid and you only know what you're told, and why would anybody tell you the truth? You don't figure out that you have rights until way later. So these choices, you know, like for me, like, okay, basically your life is over or you go into the Sea Org. Those were the only two choices that I had.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't understand because it's like this very narrow, and that's part of that control. And children are notorious for not understanding the world. That's like their whole gig. That's like the whole deal. And to be used against them was so vulnerable. Whereas some of these, like you were saying, Jamie, these old timers who are like, can't you just get over it? It's like, well, actually, you had 18 years or 22 years or 40 years of living in the world, having your sense of self. And so when you got into the Scientology situation, you might not have been pushed around as easily, or it might not have happened to you in the same way that it happened to the rest of us.
Mhm.
So,
I think what you
anyway.
said about like, you know, the you're over there as a kid, because again, I meet so many kids, like Johnny Lewis is an example. His dad was like the #1 child counselor in the world for the machine thing, right?
Oh yeah.
And work, you know, what his end was violent and not great. I thought he was a really lovable, kind guy.
He was.
But he grew up with the indoctrination, but maybe not inside the machine as much, like maybe like Laura and Serge and I were. But it seems like the guys that were even not in it, even when they were younger, that thing of like what you were saying about the R factor, Liz, like you don't talk to your children, you R factor them. Everything is at a distance and your needs are a machine, you know, these kind of predetermined needs by this captain on a ship, rather than what you're like, actually, hey, what's going on?
Right.
right? I think that I would.
Even my dad would say, "All right, honey, here's the R factor." Like
Oh,
as a loving,
Yeah.
endearing, like, all right, I'm being
Yeah.
father, like, here's the R factor. Like,
Because he wants to
and it
help
was
you.
normal.
Yeah, he wants
Well,
to bring you into the present time, let you
Right.
know that R factor. So all your pain, all your crap will go away. But that pain and that crap was your life, was
Yeah.
your experience. So it's like that doesn't go away. You
Yeah.
just have to shove it into a little box and not.
yeah. I mean, well, how about you, Nora? Because you were a little kid outside of it too, right? Like,
Yeah.
were
I
you
mean-
getting R factored? Like, was the doctrine something that was shaping your life even when you were outside in the normal world?
Well, like my childhood was a very mixed one in terms of Scientology. Like when I was born, my mom was contracted staff in the Guardian's office, which at the time was located in Celebrity Center on the 7th floor. Right. So I spent the first almost 2 years of my life being a baby inside this smoke filled room where people were literally, because the department she worked in the Guardian's office was like the no department. And they were like discussing all kinds of operations and like who was doing what and who's getting what punishment, to the point where not Klaus, but Henning Helt, who now works at David Morrison Associates, like all the old Guardian's office guys are all in investigations in real life now. He wanted to bond me as an infant because in Scientological beliefs, here I am, this baby, I'm going to be able to recall all of this information at some point, right? And so I would be a liability to the organization if I weren't like put under an NDA essentially at the age of, 15 months old. So that was like my first foray. And then they tried to declare me as a baby because my mom wasn't renewing her contract. And she was like, well, I'm a mom now, I'm going to go do that. So they're like, the baby's a suppressive, And then both my parents weren't really doing any Scientology for like a hot minute, but we still kind of like secretly did it because it was the 80s. This is right after all the kerfluffles happened. And so my mom and her bestie would hold like a Sunday school for me and my sister and her kids. And so we were all learning the tone scale and all this stuff. And my dad, bless him, was an interesting con man already, but like he would just do complete, like, the only way to characterize it is like black Scientology on me, to like put me on the cans constantly, get me to try to recall weird shit, like all this stuff, like throughout my life. So like my idea of Scientology was very much like it is this all powerful mystical thing that I'm going to like know all this stuff. And then when I was 12, I was thrown into it like head first. I was made to do my Method 1 co-audit, my student hat. I started getting auditing from a student on the objectives, like the next basic thing. And then like, I want to say 6 sessions into that, I originated, went to the examiner. I was like, I'm a last lifetime clear. And they're like, oh shit. And then they sent me to AOLA. I attested. So now I'm this like super being at 13 who's fast flow. And now I'm, a last lifetime. And it was like, I had been being recruited since I was about 8 years old forward. And that tripled the recruitment that happened to me, because it was like, of course you should know that you should come back. But meanwhile, like I'm in public school, right, with regular kids, and they're like, oh, I'm going to church on Sunday. What are you doing? I was like, well, I'm a Scientologist. We don't go to church. And they're like, and it was always like, so I had to like live this very weird Hannah Montana life where I'm trying to be proud, trying to be a good Scientologist, trying to promote it to my friends. Like, don't do pot. You're going to mess up your whole track. My friends are like, what the fuck is that? Like, I'm telling, like, I was the weirdo in high school that was like preaching these Dianetic precepts to my friends. Meanwhile, I'm getting totally made fun of. Like I stopped wearing my clear bracelet in high school because people are like, oh, is that a medical alert bracelet? Do you have diabetes? Like, what's that? I was like, fuck you, it's a clear bracelet. I'm a being, and they're like, so I look like a complete idiot. And then I moved to LA to teach at a Scientology school, of course, because I'm totally qualified after graduating high school. And that's where I met Johnny and his whole family and everything. But yeah. And then within like 4 months of working there, I got recruited again at Celebrity Center and joined in January of 1995 I signed the billion-year contract for like the 6th time, but this time I was 18. So my mom couldn't swoop in and be like, fuck no, bitch. Like, because my mom would be like hammer of Thor, no, and my dad would be like, don't you want to do that? Because I think secretly he just didn't want to pay child support, kind of a thing. But from that point forward, once I dove back into Scientology, there was no like non-believer. I almost left high school in my senior year early to go join at the ship because I was so called to the purpose, So it doesn't matter how much Scientology you get at what points in your life. Once you've submersed yourself, right, in that bucket of Scientology, and you accept the nomenclature, you accept the vocabulary, you accept the truths that you're being told as dogma, right? There is no turning back, because now it's like you have to believe because you told other people you believed, and you can't look like a total idiot, right? So you have to like keep going on this never ending, like, I believe, oh no, that happened, that's bad. Okay, just kidding, I believe more. And you re-indoctrinate yourself over and over and over and over. And my brain wasn't fully formed yet. It was 18. I dove into the Sea Organization shortly after that. In 95, my father passed, which was traumatic. And there's no healing from that. They gave me 3 days to grieve. And then they were like, no more fucking crying on post. Like, you're just supposed to be handled now because you had the L1C, the list 1 correction. You're never supposed to cry about it again. I mean, it'll be in 2025, it'll be 30 years since my father passed. And just now, in the last couple years, I've finally started addressing the grief that I had not like let out, like actually in a healthy way to deal with that. And it's taken me 30 years to untangle that mess. So it's like, I like to say Scientology is the herpes of religions. Okay. Once it's in you, it never leaves. It's always there. It will flare up and you'll get like all fucked up, but then you can like calm it back down, but it's never going to totally be, there's no cure for it. There's no
I would
cure for
also
it.
say that you have to know that you have the herpes first. You have to know that
That's the first step.
You don't actually start leaving mentally and you're not healed or whatever. You don't even know that you're angry. That's how I feel like for certain people in my family, for example, you don't even understand that you're angry because of this.
Yeah.
Like you're blaming
Well, you're
it on
still
me,
blaming
your parents
yourself
or whoever or yourself. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you go to the doctor and they tell you, oh my God, you have herpes, here, simple thing, fix it. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the first time that I went to a psychiatrist, which was in 2016. Okay. So that was 14 years after I'd left. Was the first time I went to a psychiatrist. And during the intake, I did what all Scientologists do, right? You just start barfing out your whole story as if it's just like, you're writing your name on a piece of paper, like it's nothing. And I'm telling him this, the acceptable story that was in my mind about my life and all these things that had happened and stuff, the things I could like comfortably look at that time. And immediately the guy goes, oh, you have CPTSD. And I was like, what? And then he went on to explain to me like the things that I had shown him just in talking to him. Cause I thought I did pretty good. I thought my TRs were in. I thought I was like, just telling him matter of factly. He's like, yeah, I noticed that you've been looking around the room for a way to leave. He's like, the door is open. He opened up the door. He's like, I apologize for sitting between you and the door. I just want you to know you're safe. You don't have to stay here with me. You can leave anytime you want. And like the relief that just in that moment that went through my body to just know that like I wasn't, and Serge has talked about this a lot with the, when the auditing procedure, because the auditor sits in front of the door on purpose so that if you try to leave, you're going to have to like get into a brawl essentially to leave that space because it's locked and you have no control. But to like find out for the first time that I had control over anything was like enormous. And I think growing up in Scientology, you give over your control so much. You don't have control of anything. You don't have control of your schedule. You don't have control of, where you're going to be working, especially if you look at like the code of a Sea Org member is so diabolical. Some of the things you promise to do, like I promised to fulfill my, accept and fulfill to the utmost of my ability, the responsibilities entrusted to me, whatever they may be, and wherever they may carry me in the line of duty. Like right there, that promise that you're making is like, whatever you tell me to do for whatever reason, I'm going to do it to the fullest. And it
Let's
doesn't
call
matter
it-
what job
let's
it
call
is.
it slave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So-
So it's hard.
When we all were talking about this, the main theme is to get children out of Scientology. No more kids in Scientology. And I've heard a lot of the questions that I had already being answered. But one of the things that when Cece came out and talked about how she wants to go turn herself into the police to have accountability, not necessarily because she's a criminal, but because she wants to have accountability. And that was very profound. Everybody has said that. Everybody's talked about that. What are your guys' thoughts on? Okay, so Serge, you were a course supervisor. You held people against their will. I'm just going to throw shit out there, okay? Nora, you were a word clearer. You held people against their will, unlawful
Oh, yeah.
detainment. You were like one of the badass word clearers, but that was probably not such a great thing. Scientology, maybe. Lara, you
I was
were.
innocent.
You're right. You destroyed Moxon's documents. I'm just going off from shit.
Oh,
that I
there's
heard you
more.
guys say.
There's more. That's
Oh, I
just
know.
that's
So
just
you-
was one of the things I remembered. Oh, this is what I was doing. This is why they
Exactly.
knew who was shredding. Who did
Jamie,
the shredding.
you were a registrar, right?
Fundraiser, yeah.
A fundraiser. I'm sure you took people's money, hard-earned money, that probably couldn't afford to do that. So all of you could go with Cece at the same time and say, this is what we did because this was policy and we're turning ours. Wouldn't that be an accountability? What about that idea?
I think there's levels of it. I think that it's a very different notion. When you grow up in a bubble where it's the only thing you've ever known, I have a little bit more grace for people like that. Even Julian Schwartz, I know he's very disliked, but I know Julian was born in it. Like he's been raised in the Truman Show. He doesn't know any other world exists. So I do think there's a little bit of grace that needs to be extended for people that never knew anything else. Like Julian Schwartz was like Serge and I. He's a baby in the Sea Org or in the Inner Navy.
Well, I mean, he was born into it like Lara. I mean, he didn't have another life outside of that ever. And he's also Scientology royalty. You have to put that into context too, because he's the son of Fred Schwartz, who was a very high-ranking Sea Org member for a long time. And then, held also high-ranking jobs when he got demoted from the international level down in Los Angeles. So Julian had that kind of pressure on him his whole life too, to be like, well, you're Fred Schwartz's son. You know what I mean? In the same way that I think that Jenna Miscavige did as well, because she was born a Miscavige. So there's no ever escaping the fact that she's a Miscavige for her whole life, even now.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. I don't totally think it's the same. Like I look at somebody like Laura, me, Serge, Nora, and we were born in this kind of crystallized reality where it was like Liz was saying earlier, it was like science. There's boiling temperature, gravity, and word clearing. Okay, or auditing. So I'm sure Serge doesn't feel awesome about the fact that he audited people and he could look back on that, and probably not. And I can look back at the fact that people gave me money when I was 17 years old, 18 years old, and feel like they were not giving. That wasn't good, of course. And Laura, getting into havoc at the ranch, but
I'm not calling you guys all criminals.
No. But I'm just saying that
but also the amount
different.
of times that people did try to leave, the amount of times I was like, well, then let me go to my aunts, let me go to my grandma. Yeah. I didn't know why I wanted to go.
Did you ever blow, Laura, or did you just ask to go?
I was in the governess group 11 times out of the 10 years that I was at the Int Ranch.
Because you kept leaving.
I was always blowing. I was the opinion
Okay.
leader. I was the one who made everybody blow. I was the one. It was my fault. Mine or Sarah Leah Bard's or Rebecca Jacobs or Jane Alsop or Lindsay Hughes, or Jane Alsop.
Lindsay, I was on the. I was on the.
But
Rebecca, I was on the RPF with.
But to answer your question, Mona, I think that we all have to be accountable for what we did. Of course, I'm accountable. I have memories. I've tried to apologize where I could. I'm pretty transparent about it. But that's a very big difference between people that were around the commander, the original Commodore, and people that were around the current leader. That's like, those people are committing real felonies. Like, if you were one of the top 10 people around Dave for 10 years, you saw real felonious crimes.
Yeah.
Okay. If you ran the Office of Special Affairs, you saw hundreds, if not thousands, of crimes. If you did it for decades, if you have Matt Pesh on tape talking about covering up child sexual assault, breaking, violating the law in a serial way with no emotional connection to the fact that he's a criminal. Okay. And so I think you have to separate. You don't want to collapse, us being indoctrinated, kind of like when Laura is, when
I
Laura,
was going to say with the paper and Lisa McPherson, the other thing is, I remembered that only recently. That's why I'm like, oh my God, I was shredding those documents because of the fact when I was learning the real details about Moxon and his daughter and what really happened.
Right.
It wasn't just the squirrel and the false wish-washy story. It was deeper than that. So then I was like, I'm never going to just accept what it is. I'm going to roll it all the way back. For me, I wouldn't even have known. Like, for me, there were the elderly adults making sure that a 15-year-old was doing that knew nothing about the law.
And you're also not allowed to read any of those things.
I wasn't even allowed to. I got glances.
No, when you're shredding stuff, because we did that so many times at Celebrity Center to get rid of stuff. We'd have like a big shred party and like all this stuff. You are literally, you're tasked. They run the I'm trying to think of a non-Scientological word here. Fuck it. So they give you what's called a TM, right? It's short for time machine.
A deadline.
A deadline. Thank you. That's the word I'm searching for. Thank you, Jamie. So they give you a deadline that's completely ridiculous, right? They give you a stack of paper that's as tall as you, and they say, you have 25 minutes to shred all that. And you have this one little rinky-dink bullshit shredder from fucking, what's that place called? Office Depot. And you're trying to like cram as much, and it keeps jamming. And then you got to fix the thing. So you're focused on your task. You're not focused on like, oh, who's this from? Oh, I'm going to save that for later. That looks juicy. You're just a mindless robot.
I felt
getting
really
it
good.
done.
I felt like I was doing it. I was listening to them by not looking, like they're like, this is confident. They told me this is confidential information.
Right.
When this is going in your hands, it needs to go directly into the shredder. And if it does not, you are RPF'd. You literally,
exactly.
That's a funny thing. You know what's funny about?
So I felt honored as a 15-year-old around all these execs, Mike Rinder, in the kitchen where I'm serving them all their bougie fruits that other children literally were making and delivering, Cyril Baumilli and all. Like, there's so many people where they were all young children, the young messengers. We were L. Ron Hubbard was saying the younger messengers are the most important. They're the future executives.
Mm-hmm.
And this was being told my whole life. So even realizing the only reason, let me just say this, Mona, the only reason I remembered that I shredded those was because I saw the legal documents today that showed the picture of the body and showed the sketches of cockroaches or the whatever that I remembered shredding that. I remember those being in lots of body and lots of visuals of where it was. And I was just like, okay, it was just a lot, but I had to only do 5 at once. And so it's just, I thought I was doing the best fucking thing, even in the high position post I had in like shredding papers. So there's to me, we're going, oh my God, psychiatry is horrible. The law is horrible. The police are what was good for us? What was ethical? How was that criminal? I thought I was literally being the most ethical person on earth.
We were groomed and indoctrinated. But last thing I'll say before you say anything. One thing that was really weird. I don't know if it was this way in Mexico, Serge, but like there were shredding machines, just based on what Laura said, everywhere. We had shredding machines in the kids' training academy. We had shredding machines at the Fountain Building. We had shredding machines at the Advanced Institute. I mean, like, shredding machines were a fucking ubiquitous part of my childhood. They were all over the place. And it was more normal than a TV.
You would get assigned a lower condition, a condition of treason if there was confidential or any sort of L. Ron Hubbard technology data in the trash. It would have to be in the shredding.
Guys, at Celebrity Center, we went so far as to shred the prepared lists that you use in the metering, like which dog is your favorite? A poodle? like lists of dogs, lists of trees. They mean nothing. They're not Scientological, but the little marks that you make, the SF or the F or the LFBD. Somebody might read that and think, like they would just be like, what the hell is this? Like, why do they have all these lists of weird stuff? Colors, like, who cares? But they're like, it's confidential because you wrote on it. Like, what? Like, especially in the 90s, it went after the Lisa McPherson situation, and it exploded in terms of like the insularity, where Scientology really closed ranks at that time, very, very much. We became, I don't know if you noticed that, but like from 1997 on, the shelteredness and the like very secretness of Scientology was very strong for a long time.
It's interesting, the shredding machines, man. I forgot about the shredding machines. Like at 6, 7 years old, they would put me in a room with stacks and stacks and stacks of papers. And like when you're 7, a shredding machine's like a toy.
You
right?
would have,
And you would just be like shredding shit all day, and it was better than other gigs you could be doing. I never thought about it, never questioned it. Yeah, shredding is just like
WB 3rd floor. I was in the kitchen shredding, and we had the heavy duty shredder. So I was like, I had the fruit. Sometimes an executive would be nice and come in and give me a piece of fruit or whatever. So yeah, it was I didn't know there was a crime even there. So recalling things like even you said about Cece is going, these were crimes. That was the pillow between me and Cece when I was trying to beg for her understanding, like just her to hear from somebody who's I had seen had been through it all, like homeless. She has a whole story. Like, so I just was like, well, she'll be able to hear what I'm saying when it comes to the children not having even a choice. They've never, ever had the choice. And when we begged to have a choice, we were told the choice was wrong or out of balance or knock it off. You're fucking this up for your parents. You're going to ruin the fucking clearing of the planet because you're causing out PR and bad negative and theta on your parents' lines. Wherever it is, whether it was Liz's parent, like it's always like technicals. Your family becomes their weapon.
Yeah. I think that's almost part of the mafia-esque-ness of Scientology, right? Like it makes all of us a part of the problem. It makes all of us, like I was in the public sector, so I disseminated Scientology to college students. And got some of them, to start their first services. I think that's part of the machine. It's part of what makes people stay in, because every single one of us, like even you, Laura, like not knowing what you were shredding, at some point you had to come to terms like, wow, I shredded documents that, like, on behalf of Scientology, I was doing something illegal or bad or whatever. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for Scientology. And
but
for
even
someone like,
show the perspective that the adults had children doing that. It's not just what my crime was, so to speak. It's also, this is the behavior of this organization.
Right. So can you just imagine this scenario? Use your little imagination brains, Nora. Is that you guys walk in with CC to the new LAPD chief?
Serge, you're muted. You're muted. Serge, you're muted.
And you're still muted, Serge.
We still can't hear you. Where are you?
He's like, wait. I could see him. I'm like, see, somebody left Serge behind.
You still can't hear you.
Oh, wait, there you go. Try. No.
Now?
Yeah, there
we go.
Okay. No, I was just going to say about the problem with the shredding, it goes to consciousness of guilt. Why was stuff shredded? Someone knew. Someone
needed to be shredded,
right?
Yeah,
not us. Us would just like shred. I mean, for us, it was.
That's what I was saying. Is that there was an environment. I was working literally. Mike Rinder would come in every hour, every 2 hours to get a coffee or this or something, and here I am shredding. These executives. I'm not just saying Mike Rinder alone. David Miscavige, Mark
Right.
fucking Yeager, Guillaume Lesevre, all of them knew, oh, she's shredding. They know what I'm doing. I'm
Right.
in the most secure building in the Sea Org's eyes, in their own private thing, going right from the fucking criminal's hands right to me in the shredding because they don't have the time to do it because they're too busy fucking making lies.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
the only reason I remember this was because this was a normal thing, shredding in the Sea Org. It's a constant, it's part of the machine. Did you get your shredding done? That's elite. That's treasonous to leave the shredding there for somebody to read.
Right. But okay, so scenario that you guys walk into LAPD chief's office and say with Cece and say, these are the crimes. This is what no one's going to go to jail over it. All your, your time's up for that, your statute of limitations. These are the crimes that we did commit, and we did them under policy. Somebody
I feel
told
like
us
none
to
of
do
us
it.
would have any problem doing that.
I would have no problem doing it, but
I think it would
I
be-
don't put us in the
adults
same.
do it.
I think
adults-
minors that have been conditions from birth are different than an adult.
But not
going
for
in there.
that reason, Jamie. For the reason of unwhitewashing, in unsafe pointing, in putting out the realities of what has happened. This is the reality.
But brother, the reality's been played there. I've gone to the Clearwater Police Department. I've spoken to the FBI. I've spoken to Homeland Security. I've spoken about all what the audits are. They know, they understand it. I explained it in exact detail. I mean, I was a child auditor, and that's why I use my YouTube. My YouTube alone, if they want to know what in the hell we were doing, look at the YouTube, because we have come to discuss the facts. And again, it's not about a shame blame game. It's about discuss what the facts are, so that in a new unit of time, to use their own little term against them, come to present time, in today, in the year 2024. Oh, in the 70s we thought it was great, in the 80s we also thought that, in the 90s also, in the 2000s, in the 2010s, in the year 2024, think again. Because that's where we're all coming to this point, right? It's like, okay, it was normalized at a grandiose global scale. This wasn't just one person doing it. It's the fact that all these countries accepted the works of a convicted felon to have kids exposed to disgusting things, that again, all those kids are owed the advocates, right? And our advocacy, I feel like that's why we're all here, and that's why we're all so scathing and to the point. They did teach us how to put ethics in that hotel. They did teach us how to point the facts one by one. No, this is wrong. No, you're committing a crime. Like, we're not scared of confrontation. We will confront you now with the facts, and we're actually doing you a service. We're doing you a service. We're giving you the gift of awareness. Take this gift of awareness. Become aware. We're inviting you to become aware. We're not going to charge you a single dollar. You become aware now. You're not going to do it to another child. You become aware now. You're going to tell another Scientology parent, you know what you don't want to do? Audit your child. You know what you really want to make sure you really think about twice is putting a kid in a course, putting a kid to all the things that we were made to do, where everybody went, everything is great and wonderful. It's like, how stupid can anyone be? It's like, it's time to come down to earth and realize this is all disgusting. Everything L. Ron Hubbard said is wrong. That's it. It's like, it's not for an opinion. It's not like our opinion. It's like, oh, we won because L. Ron Hubbard is wrong. The fact that L. Ron Hubbard was anywhere in our lives is what effed all of us. It contaminated our entire family tree. And we wouldn't wish this on our worst enemy, much less kids that, as Laura said, are still being dragged into those orgs with everyone just going with the pitch. Oh, these people are saving our world. No, they're not. And they're all infantile degenerates that need to be told, come to present time, right the F now. Oh, but I thought shut the F up. And if we talk like that, it's because we know we need to impinge on them. They're not just coming to their turn. In the year 2024, none of them are barely on the record repudiating anything. Again, we're talking about Cece as the miracle of God. And what happened to Cece when she spoke the truth? Nothing. She was able to come to our show. We were able to grant space to her because Okay, you get it. Now you can begin that process of redemption by taking that accountability. If there's no accountability or acknowledgement of any facts, then in what world are you expecting to really have come clean? Because you know what? Coming clean 101 requires you to state what you did. I did this. I trafficked my child because I separated him from his, passport and dump him at a hotel. That's what my parents did. Do they need to be locked up for the next 30 years? If that's going to help other kids avoid what happened to me, then put them in that jail. Lock them up in federal prison for the rest of their life. Have them rot. They committed the crime. Okay, but
Great.
if we're going to just, give all these people an amnesty because they've all been defrauded, I don't give an F. They can get an amnesty for all I give an F about. If it all becomes acknowledging what the problem is, that's the only thing. It's like, do we want to see you in jail rotting next to Ghislaine Maxwell, Mike Rinder? No, we want you to see coming clean, stating the facts, using that intelligence brain that you do have to connect the dots needed to a law enforcement where you, unlike all of us called kids, didn't have access to lawyers or legal infrastructure or legal nothing. We don't know anything like that. You became an expert in that. That's your niche. So you cannot claim to be like, oh, legally, I didn't know anything. You knew the whole MF time. You have no plausible deniability that you didn't know. You knew, you acted because you knew it, you orchestrated it. We were all dumb kids that got told what to do, what to say at all times. We had no autonomy. That's the difference here, right? And that's what we're calling out. That's what we're advocating for these kids, because they don't have any autonomy. They're being told that they do, but it's a fake conservatorship that they're in. It's an illegal conservatorship on steroids. It's like it's any conservatorship, and then this one is on steroids, because you do become a slave to a system that you have no idea how to become one. And again, we're saying kids cannot consent to be slaves. Adults can. They can make that choice for themselves. Oh, they're gonna just pay me $50 and they're gonna abuse me all the time. If that's getting you off, there's places where you can go sign up. No one's gonna come and rescue you. You're an adult. It's like the woman that was just missing from Maui was just found going across to Mexico, and everyone's like, okay, well, she doesn't want to talk to anybody. Like, leave her alone. She's an adult. Like, we cannot come and tell you how to live your life as a grown adult. But the problem is going back to, but then they bring their child. That's who's at risk. That's who didn't consent. That's who doesn't know. That's who can be taken advantage of in a blink of an eye. And it's getting abused because all adults agreed that child was an adult. That's why if Jamie was stuck in some hotel run down filled with cockroaches, who cares? He's an adult. He chose this body. I mean, down to that level of responsibility they were giving us. If you didn't want to be here, then why did you choose your body? Like, why did you float and take this body is what they would tell us. I mean, they took it that far. And that's the delusion that's being called out today, because, again, it's like, it's a delusion and it needs to be confronted as such. And it's not us being mean or hard on these people. It's just we're unreasonable now. We're just literally can see shit for what it is. Look, don't listen. Alvin Hubbard taught us how to investigate. Look, don't listen. So we don't want to be told what it was. We're looking. Why are kids locked up in infested roach motels, where we went to film one of Laura's recent videos? We were there with Miriam going down the stairs. Why were kids having to go 5 stairs of very steep stairs where, how many of them fell down and no one gave an F because there's no report? No one gave, what contact assist and, get it over with. So I think that's where we're going with in all of this. It's like, we are being that voice. We are being that advocate. We are being the adults in the room. It requires us to hold a million things in our head that all have to be, regulated, because so many things have to be true at once so we can be, responsible adults looking at a very complex situation. That it is very complex. Like, do I want Laura's mom in jail in handcuffs? No, I wish she would recover. I wish she would come out. I wish she would come to her senses. That would be more beneficial to us than whatever the courts are really going to do for us. The reason we got enslaved in America under these false legal pretenses are because courts said it was legal. So the court put us there. The court made our parents go, oh yeah, this is not child trafficking, right? This is all very legit. We have plenty of lawyers. That's what we're being told at the hotels. Oh, the lawyers abound, so don't worry about it. Everything has been double checked, and it wasn't. And, you know, our parents are victims of all of that stupidity, of that misinformation, of that bad advice, of everything was given and delivered in bad faith to scam them and to fuck them. And, you know, we are advocating on them to that degree, but, you know, they don't come to the table and come clean for themselves, which they know how to do it. Time, place for an event. They all learned that at the hotel. That's what's being required today, so that we can all really turn a page. It's going to require you naming what you are ashamed about. And we are now, since they haven't named that, we're going to re-stimulate your withhold. We're going to tell you what to be ashamed of, so you don't have to like sit there and wonder. We're not feed you. We're going to evaluate you. You know what you need to be ashamed about? Auditing kids, making kids do courses, making kids into ethics handlings, the 3 things you deliver in Scientology. If you weren't feeling guilty about those things, start feeling that guilt right now. And based on that guilt that you start feeling, start changing what's being done to the kids right now. That's it. It's literally that simple.
I wonder, Jamie, there's sometimes I think, and I always think of you when I'm thinking deeply about this, because I struggle with people in my life that, or not in my life, that I would like to have in my life, but I just think there's no chance for them. I just think like they just aren't getting that. And I'm always like, oh, maybe it's Jamie has something to say, and maybe it's the shot or whatever it is, but I'm always like, what is that? That is it just that long? Is it sadly just that long, deep programming of where I feel like their physical brain or their wiring literally is just so unbreakable. Like it's unfucking healable. I don't know.
I do think having your nervous system stuck in fight or flight is going to help you hold on to the constructs, and that you'll have a way easier time if you could relax your nervous system, right? Like get it back down to baseline. But then there's other incredible therapies out there. There's somatic therapy. There's a book called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Willin that talks about how to heal kind of generational trauma. But, you know, I'm still working on it. I don't know that I'll ever, for me, because it started so early and it ran so deep, I don't know that I'll ever be free of it. I like to describe it, like, to me, it feels like an open wound that just doesn't,
it feels like that on a daily basis. I feel like if I could do the best thing for my brother, if I could do the best thing, what would that be? And then I just like, it's like literally opening a wound for me where I'm like, that's going to drain all my blood. I can't do that.
It's hard to explain how much is piled up on top of us, from the psychological abuse, some of us, the physical abuse, to all these constructs. You can't explain to someone who's a Christian. They have one book, right? We have 1,000 books. You can't get someone to understand what it's like to have 1,000 books if you have the Bible or the Quran or the Talmud. It's just so different. It's more like, God, I don't know what to compare it to. It's more like being given a 15-year PhD of bullshit, and, you know, and then believing in it all, then all of a sudden being told, all right, turn it off, you know? And so it's like stacks of lies upon stacks of lies upon stacks of lies. Listen, I left pretty much after I was a minor, but I definitely got people in, you know, I don't feel good about that, but do I put myself in the same category?
You said you were in Flag a little bit.
Yeah, I was
with Serge when Serge was there.
No, I was there right before. I left right before he got there, a couple of years. But
what year though?
I left in 90.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was a kid, but, you know, I don't think, you know, most as an adult, I did very little, but I don't, you know, like if you came and you said, okay, I saw children being, I took my kids and I knew they weren't in school and I raised them not going to school. There's a statute against that, right? Is there a statute against a kid who can't read a document? Like so much, the laws are built on intent. Okay. Someone that comes in as an adult that didn't have a childhood in this understands intent, right? We had no concept of intent. Serge had no concept that he was hurting somebody if he was auditing them. Nora had no concept. So typically when we sentence someone to jail or someone gets in trouble for a crime, it's based on intent. I believe that these adults understood the intent. Their viewpoint was, we're above the law, but they knew what they were doing. Whereas we didn't have any idea what we're doing. I think that law enforcement would laugh at us. What, you did that when you were 15? What are you talking about?
Exhibit A, they're shredding.
Yeah. Like, I don't even think they would understand us coming in there because there's
and the amount of times that Mike Rinder and Leah have said they think they are above the law. Mike said they are above the law. They even missed that, but of course diverting. But that is the thing, and that in itself is criminal. That's gang behavior. That is that is like, I'm gonna take over the government and we're gonna have sex, which they're already doing.
Yeah, you have to understand that if you were around Dave, if you were one of the 20 people around Dave, you have some sense of intent. I have had a senior RTC official tell me that, to my face, that they committed multiple felonies. Okay. Now he had it justified, but he understood. And when he said that to me, I said that to him. You're basically confessing to multiple felonies and you don't care. He wanted to kill me. There's nothing I've done. Like, so I just don't think it's not. Listen, if you were around Dave, like Mike Rinder is a blank face to me. It's not about him. Right. I mean, the guy's dying. I have so many mixed emotions about it. The biggest mixed emotion I have is like my empathy for a human being that's suffering, combined with this guy is going to go eventually with all of the secrets, and we're never going to know what happened, because when you have knowledge of why, like when I came back from LA, so he's a blank face to me. He's got all these videos about how everybody does these things. When Miriam was sitting there on the show and he's like, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. He had knowledge of how OSA would have executed all those things. He says nothing, right? So I think that him coming out and saying, here's the hundreds of things that I did, because he always said SCN does this, SCN does that. He never says, this is an instance where I ran an operation where we did this. And this is how it was done. And these are all the elements. I think it's
unlimited. There's so much that it could be like he could be whispering this every time he's doing something while he's going, because it breaks it all the way down to kids that were cracking eggs for hours in the galley. Like, and it breaks it all the way down to, yes, that did happen. That was then it needs to be said and it needs to be seen.
I think that would create, but based on what Laura's saying, like it would create so much healing. Also based on what Serge was saying earlier, it would create so much healing, because if he said what all those things were specifically, then if it's going on now, then we know what's going on now. What's going on? Like if I say, yeah, I saw some guy and I, this group, and they call people assholes, and they walk down the street and they call people assholes. That's not going to stick to you very well. If I say to you, hey, Mona, I saw your mom last night and I called her a fucking bitch. Okay. That's going to stick to you, and it's going to stick to everyone around you that knows you. And it's going to stick to people that just have general empathy for human beings, because they're seeing a real thing on a real person with an identity. That's what he's holding on to that we never hear. That's what, and you could say anybody that was around Dave is holding on to things like that. I don't care about them. I don't want anybody to go to jail, like Serge says. No one's going to jail. But I don't think it's appropriate for the ex-int executives that tortured us and instilled fear in us to be running the foundation. You got, Amy, was around this guy, this leader. You got Claire, you got Mike. These guys have knowledge of specific things that this guy did. We told the FBI. I don't care about the FBI. To heal, I need to know the specifics of what you saw so I can understand what happened to me. Okay? That's what I'm saying. Like, there was a document that came out in 1985 when I came back to LA when I was a teenager in the mid 80s. all these kids were living on the street. All my friends were living on the street. They were told at 14, 15, if you're over 14 and you're not willing to sign the billion-year contract, you have to leave. So they all were like living in apartments right outside the mothership, the blue building, okay? There was a policy that came down, signed by OSA International, about how the government, how they were doing all the minimum things that they could do with the kids so that they could still be legal. The document is gross. It's around. Christy Gordon has it. It says signed OSA International. When you look at the little things on the side, it says MR.
We were doing that at the Ant Ranch.
Yeah. And so the big lie here is this. Once I was barely not a minor anymore by the time I was out of there, because I was feeling like what I was doing was a slave and a criminal. Okay. Like it didn't feel honest. Right. And I felt enslaved. So I left. And I think that that's what most people do. Right. These people that were able to stomach being around Dave for 7 years, these people that were able to sit there as the in charge of finance at the Fort Harrison Hotel and to fund the cover up of child sexual assault. Okay, these people that ran the spy operation to destroy people's lives specifically for over 2 decades. These types of people, the guy that sat in the hotel with me, the guy that told me he committed all the felonies, there's very few people in this thing that can be criminalized. Most people, when it starts to get heavy crim, I think they leave. So when you're looking at these people that are running this thing, it's like, I want the Aftermath Foundation. I want it to thrive. I want people to get help getting out. It's pretty weird to have 1, 2, 3, 4, the primary dominant people in there be ex-executives that were right around the leader. That's pretty weird, pretty uncomfortable.
Well, just not to plug my own show that's coming up at 2:30 on Raised in Scientology, but I'm doing a deep dive into exactly that today in a stark comparison between the people who came out in the 80s and 90s and started speaking out then and what they had to say about Mike, Marty, and David Miscavige versus what actually happened when those people came out and what's been the difference in the entire, like, just as a whole, not just the foundations and stuff, which were created with a good purpose. I 100% believe that. I don't think there was anything nefarious in the creation of either foundation. I think they were both created with the idea of let's do something that we didn't have when we left, what they possibly have turned into or whatever, that's a whole other story, right? And I agree with you wholeheartedly that putting the former tormentors in charge of people's salvation is not a great idea. But part of the situation that we have to realize, right? Like, so our reality, our R of Scientology exists in a bubble between the 70s and the early 2000s. And then we've been out of Scientology, right? And Mike and Amy and all those guys all left Scientology around the same time. So people who are leaving now have no idea who they are. They never heard of them.
Yeah. But that being said,
they forgot about them.
That being said, I don't want to poke on Amy. I don't want to poke on Claire. I really don't want to poke on these people. But I will say this: most people in this organization cannot be criminalized. Most people would leave. True. The people that can stay at the base and do the things that the people on the Aftermath board did are rare. 1%. Okay. Again, it's not them personally. They're blank faces. They're people that were around the leader that saw what they saw. I want them, nothing's happening to them. The statute of limitations is up. What did you do? Why are you not questioning yourself that you were around the leader, you instilled fear in people, and now you're running the board to help people? I know there's been a narrative that has been created and run. And again, I don't want to pick on somebody that's not around to defend themselves or is dying. Okay. But it's like, this narrative of exposing Scientology, like whistleblowing. And then everybody says exposing Scientology, whistleblowing. That narrative has been created where, okay, if you're whistleblowing and you're, quote, exposing what Scientology does, you're on the good team. And if you're not doing that, then you're on the bad team. That whole construct is bullshit. Who was in there that did the major things and saw the major things, and who didn't is far more important than that. That narrative of only look at who's exposing, and if you're exposing, everything you've done is redeemed and everything is cool. That narrative was invented and has been run on this community, and it continues to be run on this community. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's not all about whistleblowing. It's not all about exposing. There's specific people that did specific things. So as long as you talk about this general thing of whistleblowing, this general thing of exposing, you'll never look at the specific things. It's been done intentionally by a person that is trained at obfuscating the truth and have done it for 40 years. It's so obvious to anybody that grew up in the belly of this thing. Yeah. Okay. But it's too inside baseball if you didn't. If you're not hearing about specific things that people can be accountable for, it's bullshit. People that are liars talk in generalizations. SCN does this. SCN does that. OSA does this. OSA does that. Exposing this. Exposing Scientology. Whistleblowing. No. You have a video of Hy Levy. He gives example after example of what he did right before he died. Right. I watch that and I get lighter. My skin gets lighter because I'm hearing truth. Okay. We need to take exposing Scientology, whistleblowing Scientology, throw it out the fucking window. It's a lie. We've been indoctrinated with it. We all know who indoctrinated us with it. Okay. And it's so dark because the people doing it were trying to do good. I think Leo was trying to do good. I think Mike was trying to do good. But there was a conflict of interest. And that conflict of interest said, let's get everybody talking about exposing and whistleblowing and not looking at what was actually done. And that has been created like a Scientological certainty. Exposing and whistleblowing or not exposing whistleblowing. As long as that's the construct, we'll never look at what anybody did.
Well, also,
we'll never know what was done.
In that construct, let's be honest, in that construct, especially in the now times, we have this ultra boogeyman, OSA, right? Where every time we're doing exactly what you're talking about, trying to hold someone accountable for actual crimes, for things that they did, right? In the then times, then we as survivors are accused of, oh, you're just giving OSA a win. You're just helping you're helping. Somehow it turns you into an enemy because you want truth. You want accountability. You want there to be, a real healing and a real come to Jesus kind of thing where people like all of y'all who grew up in this, who were born into it, into those dire conditions, can be like, oh, that was the person that wrote that policy on why I didn't have a proper bed or I wasn't fed properly or whatever. Like those are the things that when you're in therapy and stuff, therapy goes so far because you can recall the things that you can recall. And as it peels away the trauma, you see more and more. But having someone to tell you oh, this is what actually went on that day on blah, 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 blah. And here's the exact sauce can give you the way to look at that and look at your life and go and start to make all those puzzle pieces that are just scattered all over the floor that have never fit in the puzzle. It works. And it's I don't think I'm certainly not advocating for anybody to go to jail unless, there is a statute of limitations that isn't gone. And you are culpable in that and you're found guilty in a court of law. I'm not just saying walk into the jail and lock yourself in the thing and throw the key out all dramatic, like it's the Wild West. But having that accountability and saying it out loud, because if I hear one more time somebody tell me they went to the FBI and they said everything, I'm gonna fucking explode, because it clearly the authorities are not doing anything. The last time the authorities did anything about Scientology was in 1978 when they fucking gathered up everybody and started those trials about Operation Snow White, about the singularly largest infiltration of the U.S. government in United States history. And no one's ever topped them, by the way. But they didn't even do anything then. They put 12 people in jail.
Right there, no.
Well, hang on. Go ahead. Sorry.
The outpoint already is that the government has had full unfeathered access to the full unfeathered criminal evidence these people keep on themselves,
Mhm.
because it's a self-sustaining machine of writing.
Well, they do destroy a lot of evidence, but yeah.
But
Yeah.
Jamie, but okay. That no PC folder can be destroyed because L. Hubbard
Okay.
said no, and the
Right.
PC folders, like not even one page could be out of place in a PC folder of
That's
an
true.
SP or another. It was like
Right.
it was revered, right? And
Good
it's
point.
all those cases that they've built on themselves. It's like it's the cases that shows you going back to intent. It's like no one can say they didn't know because they were recording it, they were doing it, they were aware of what was happening, right? This is not Larry Nassar where no one knew he was a pedo. Like this is in this hotel, Debbie Cook knew who was and who wasn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is why it's so important. Like, if this was Diddy, just to your point, Serge, if this was Diddy, and people were going to the FBI and saying, SCN does this and SCN does that, and all, did he like to have sex? And when I saw Diddy have sex, he was really abusive, and he loved to use a lot of lube, and he put drugs in the lube. Like all of that, the FBI would sit there and go, okay, well, what's a specific incident? What did you see? It's only in this ex-SCN movement that the generalizations of exposing and whistleblowing with no specifics is the norm, because it's been a very cogent, intelligent person created that narrative to obfuscate. If it in any RICO case, a racketeering case, the way you get somebody is they're going to get Diddy's lieutenants that did these crimes. Hey, you're going to jail, or you could tell us some specific incidents. Right? The only way this gets taken apart is with specific incidents.
Correct.
Okay. And most of the people that are out that are criticizing Dave for the generalization are never going to say them because they implicate themselves. So until we start talking, until the narrative becomes about specifics, it's all bullshit. And it's been this narrative of whistleblowing and exposing is a generalization. It is a construct. It's been run, and we just puppet it all along, and it needs to stop.
Well,
I agree, and we're just continually beating ourselves up with the same thing. And we started this conversation with no more kids in Scientology has been a common war cry, and the investigation needs to be the why, so that way we can get to the what and the how to make this stop, to get the kids out of Scientology. And working with police and the governments and the FBI, a sad story is just a sad story until you have facts and proof
and specifics. Like New York, they didn't give a shit about NXIVM for years until the New York Times did a story on very specific story about branding vaginas, and then it was over in a minute. Where are the specific stories? The only way law enforcement is ever going to take action ever is if there is specific stories. Hold on. This last part, Nora, the specific stories have to be in the public eye.
No, I understand that, but I'm going to push back on that because there have been specific stories. I've told a very specific story of my, what happened to me on the RPF. Serge has told many specific stories of his childhood and things that he participated in. Laura has. There have been even people before us. Okay, and I'm talking in the 80s and 90s who told very specific stories of David Miscavige, of L. Ron Hubbard, of various different bases. It wasn't even just all the int base. We're talking specifics have been in the vernacular on national and international television for decades. The truth of the matter is, and I hate to say this, but I agree, like no more kids in Scientology. However, why are there still kids in Scientology? This is the key question. And the answer to that is MONEY. Because every time that someone has come after Scientology's money, that's when they push back. When Debbie Cook got sued, okay, the reason why they paid her off isn't because she told the whole world that she was putting a trash can and the lesbian sign was put around her neck. It's because she was a signatory on those accounts and she knew where the motherfucking accounts were. And if she was starting to put Scientology shit into the record, she was going to talk about that. And then they went, oh, hell no. And they gave her a shit ton of money. Why did Marty Rathbun get paid off? Because Marty Rathbun similarly knows where all the fucking money is. Mike had never got paid off, but I'll go over that later in my video into depth, but like he never threatened to reveal that type of information. Every single person that had access to that level of information is either holed up somewhere inside a low-level menial shit, right? According to Mitch Brisker, like Mark Yeager, all those guys who are also, they're all like working in like basically the base mines, you know, like they're sewing garments, they're just doing like menial tasks, and Heber's rotting away in some, you know, hospice care center out in Hemet, right? So all the other people that know this stuff, that know where all the international accounts are, because now it's just David Miscavige. And until we trace where the money's going, that's how we have to figure this out. Because why hasn't the FBI investigated all these specific things? Why hasn't Homeland Security? Why?
I'm going to answer your question.
MONEY.
Yeah, but I'm going to be more
off.
I'm going to be more specific. There have been a lot of specific stories of people saying what happened to them. That's very different than executives leaving and saying what they saw.
They did that though in the 90s. We had Jesse Prince, we had Stacey
The only
Young,
story that I've ever seen public, I've seen a few stories public. I've seen Lisa McPherson talked about publicly. It's still very vague. Like,
well,
we got
I'm going to show you all that today, because the things that they talk about specifically and the who's that they name have never varied. Okay.
Here's what I believe. I believe, and I have to go soon because I have a meeting, but I believe that if all the focus were on specifics, talking about specifics all the time, that would mushroom and grow. It would permeate its way into the media. And when there's enough of those specific stories, when that's the major focus, when we're not going exposing, whistleblowing, we're robots. When we're just focusing on specific stories, that will mushroom and that will cause the government to act. That's what I believe. But I agree that it's about money, but it's also about crimes, right? If you notice, Mike Ritter's never said, and again, I don't want to throw him under a bus, but I've never heard him talk about really specific crimes that he saw Miscavige do, because he would have been an accessory after the fact. It's a felony to not report a felony. So he never says those. And also, they never say anything specific that he did when he was in. It's all stuff that happened after he was out with his wife and all that. That's not a coincidence.
Even all those guys, all they talked about was adult issues. They've never discussed the concept of the kids. The kids has never been in anyone's, oh, well, wait, but what about them? Like, it's just never been. And that's the thing that I think is changing over this conversation, going back to like, whoever couldn't consent is the top priority victim to come to the rescue of. If you consented to be a part of that, you're going to have to deal with those choices. You made a choice, a bad choice. There's a lot of context to that choice. I'm not going to claim and blame, like even my own parents. They made a horrific, horrendous choice that led them to be criminals. Do I need to see them, you know, going back to intent, charged for the rest of their lives? No. But if that's going to help expose the fact that they did break the law in the United States and it's being allowed to be broken because just a few people have delusions of who L. Ron Hubbard was. I mean, again, going back to the fact is, no one says this enough, but L. Ron Hubbard was a convicted felon. There's never been a time where no one had a clue that L. Ron Hubbard was a full-blown criminal. The public record already stated that he was a criminal record a criminal felon on the run. What was going to happen from people following the rhetoric and the ideas of convicted felon? I mean, if no,
but you have to look at how the media looks at him though too. Every time Scientology is talked about in any media for the last decades,
Mike Grinder, the media goes to Mike Grinder. Oh, tell us how it is there, and they don't.
No. But what I'm saying is, if you see these stories about Scientology, they always introduce it in a very similar way. This new religion, founded by a science fiction writer, L. Ron Hubbard, and then they go into some version of that when they're going to do the story, because no one in the media has ever said founded by a convicted felon, tax evader, right? They don't tell the whole truth.
That's interesting. Why is that?
They fluff him up.
Why is that?
This is MONEY.
Paid off, you guys.
No, but why is the media doing that? It's a really good point.
Money.
The media's being paid off. The media is also under control. Like, you know how this works, Jamie. Publicists can tank a story. Everything is a PRO world. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard did say that, and these people are in high places, safeguarded in very important places to be so that they can
You're
control the
right.
atmosphere.
It's a
They
much
can
more interesting
control it.
story if he's a sci-fi writer. It's, you know, if he's a common thug, it's not as interesting of a story, but it's fascinating. Listen,
Only
I
what
gotta,
they've been told. So
yeah.
they just write what they're told. They're not investigating. They're told they're told he's a
Okay,
sci-fi writer. That's what it is.
I have to go. Can I say one thing before I go? Just one thing. Like, it really does. I just want to agree with Serge on this one thing. Happy birthday, Serge. I want to agree with you on this point that I think if there was a channel with 1 million followers and all it did was give specific kids stories, specific violations of their bodies, specific violations of their rights, the specific poverty, that's all it did, specific things that happened to the kids, and it had 1 million followers, I think we would see the government take action. And I agree that nothing could be
Great
more
idea.
important. Yeah, and I think there could be nothing more important than what Serge said, which is that if we can't protect the vulnerable, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Serge. It was great to meet you. Let's talk more, man.
Yes,
Okay.
good.
All right, Laura, good to see your face.
Thank you, you too.
And I love your song. I play it for all the time, the Oh Darling song. I love that song. Yeah. Nora, okay, you're a beast. Okay, talk to you soon. Mona,
Love
thank
you,
you for
friend.
this. Okay.
Love you, friend. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, talk soon, guys.
Thank you for letting me be in your presence, you guys. I really, really am honored that you guys let me. I'm going to let you finish having a happy birthday day. And let's get on to some bigger and better topics other than, I know,
Yeah.
that's what you wanted. That's what you want for your birthday, Serge. That's what we're going to give you.
Well, we want no more kids in there, so it's not going to happen because we don't have these conversations, and that's what we have to acknowledge. We're having these conversations in an effort to create more awareness, to create more knowledge for the people that cannot see it, to start seeing it. And I think it is an invitation. It's like no one wants to be right about L. Hubbard being a convicted felon. No one wants to be right about their parents having been defrauded in the most sadistic, disgusting ways that turned them into monsters. Like, nobody wants that for nobody. And I think that, that's why we're going to continue digging deeper and deeper into the weeds of this, because I think that we are there, at least we are speaking about the kids, and plenty of our community already understands the assignment. So if the assignment is for us to continue beating that drum, nothing's going to happen. It's all baby steps, so nothing's going to happen overnight. But there is an awareness that's been created over the kids. If the media decides to take it up or not, it's fine. Like, we are going to continue messaging and exposing it and demanding that somebody does something about it, because I do think that there's a lot of very good people in the world that don't want to see kids be hurt for no reason. So we're asking for very reasonable things. We're not asking for anything crazy. We're asking for all the kids that are in Scientology right now in all these countries to be advocated for. They need advocates, and they're also owed that. We were owed advocates, but there was no one on the outside educated enough to be able to speak on these issues that in a way that would have helped us. I mean, even the ones that you are saying, Nora, is like, I still remember Lisa McPherson being protested outside of Fort Harrison. But that didn't help me not go to the RPF. That didn't help me not be locked up in a hotel room with a self-admitted, PDF file. So it's the fact that, we are being able to have that voice today, where we have realized that, nothing about it was right. It created, like, and to your point, Laura, that you were talking about, can they ever wake up? And one thing that I learned from therapy is betrayal blindness. Betrayal blindness is the quiet thief of awareness. It is the state of unseeing, chosen or conditioned, that shields us from truth too painful and too threatening to fully comprehend. Our parents cannot think that, oh, L. Hubbard's a convicted felon. Oh, okay, well, glad we squared that away. It's like they cannot reconcile their entire lifetime decisions, because it would make them be wrong about everything they've ever done. And the only thing they're holding on to is that all this sacrifice is in good faith. Like, they're still being exploited. We still see them for the victims that they are. But, it doesn't, put us in another place. And it says to see betrayal, blindness for what it is, especially as a child or someone dependent on their betrayer, often feels like staring into the sun, blinding, overwhelming, and impossible to hold for long. The blindness can be adapted when someone you rely on, like parents, leaders, partners, acts in a way that violates your trust or safety. Your mind may protect you by hiding the truth in plain sight. It whispers, you can't afford to see this right now. For a child, it is a coping mechanism, a way to preserve a sense of stability in a world where the people who should care for them instead exploit or harm them. And then in systems of like Scientology or in any environment built on manipulation and control, betrayal blindness isn't just personal, it's institutionalized. L. Ron Hubbard, a convicted felon and the architect of this harmful machine, embedded patterns that normalize horrific systemic abuse. His technology taught adherents to suppress their instincts that took away from the injustices, to look away from the injustices and to rationalize harm for the greater good. And for kids, these patterns are especially insidious. The narrative that kids are just adults in small bodies strips them from their innocence and right to protection. They're groomed not just to obey, but to participate, conditioned to betray themselves before they even understand the concept of betrayal. The result, a culture where exploitation is rebranded as duty and questioning is treated as a punishable offense. Recovering from betrayal blindness is like peeling back layers of a fog. It's disorienting, painful, and often slow. You see the moments you overlook, the warnings you ignore, the harm you excuse, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. It requires rebuilding trust in your own perception, reclaiming the parts of yourself that were silenced, and forgiving the version of you that couldn't see what was happening at the time. For those who grew up in systems like Scientology, betrayal blindness isn't just something we experience. It was demanded of us. We were taught to look away from the exploitation of others, from the abuse of our peers, from our own pain. But when the veil lifts, the blindness fades. And when it does, we speak, not just for ourselves, but for the kids still trapped, still unseen, still waiting for someone to say, I see you. This is not your fault, and this will not be your forever. Betrayal blindness may shield us from the unbearable, but breaking through that is what will actually set us free.
Great words. And the words of a very wise woman once told me, we need to act like the heroes we wished would come and rescue us when we were little. Right, Nora? Nora told me that.
Yes.
Yep.
I was trying to hit applause for Serge's thing.
But I hit this button, and that was the one I wanted.
I was trying to do that.
Well, there you go, you guys. Well, thank you everyone that has joined us for this wonderful panel conversation. I think more panel conversations will be had in the very near future because we're all in this community advocating for the same exact thing, which is
Absolutely.
for-
Happy 21st birthday, Serge.
Thank you. Forever 21.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much to everybody that wished me happy birthday, that put all your wonderful comments on the stream. And we will see you all extremely soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Happy
Thank